Oh, that was Hot Mic. That's awesome. Welcome, everybody, to the Yahoo pre-show. We're prefacing here for a deeper dive for Live Before Lock, which I will be on once again with Greg Ehrenberg. I am Eric Lindquist. Very excited to be talking some Yahoo NBA with you guys and gals, of course. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell as you get in here. But I'm filling in here last second for Atom. I'm looking forward to this because I was already planning on playing on our sponsor site here today. But I got another guy that's going to be chatting a little hoops with me. I'm lucky enough to get to do a Sunday show with him. Super sharp guy. So happy to have him added to the roster here at Awesemo. That is Matt LaMarca. How you doing, my guy?
A lot better after that introduction. You know, I feel super pumped up right now. No, this is going to be a fun slate, 5-game slate, tons and tons and tons of value out there. You know, it feels like if you're a superstar player, you're basically just not playing today. So should be a lot to go through.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun things to juggle. We're going to have some pause. I already have a pause 2 minutes into a show, don't I, Jordan Klein? I saw hello, fellow crackheads. Hello, Heidi ho, neighbor. Let's get to work here. I'm excited. Again, hit that like button. That goes such a long way for us. And it'd be so great if we could get to like 200 likes even before that deeper dive starts. That would make me look really good. So if you like me a little bit, maybe you don't have to like me a lot. You could find me relatively annoying from time to time. I find myself annoying time to time, so I get it. But that's going to look really nicely upon Matt LaMarca as well. It would show favor to both of us. So please do that as we start getting going here. But before we even talk anything about Yahoo, what are the major pieces of news for this slate that are kind of dictating what you're doing with your lineups, Mr. LaMarca?
Yeah, well, we've got the news that we already know, which is that the Raptors are going to be thin. They could be thinner if Gary Trent Jr. is ruled out. You've got the Grizzlies who are still playing without Ja Morant, Kyle Anderson questionable there. You've got the Suns with no Devin Booker. You've got the Blazers with no Damian Lillard. Like, there's just a lot of potential injuries to dive into here. Who's going to be the biggest beneficiary? You know, like, we're getting to the point where we kind of know who stands out for teams like Memphis and Portland a little bit, but for Phoenix, we don't really know yet. We haven't seen them play a full game without Devin Booker. So there's like a few different directions you can go there. It's, again, there's a lot of stuff to kind of dig into.
Yeah, and popcornmachine.net does a really good job of kind of encapsulating what we're going to see a little bit based on that second half. But the starting lineup could look different. There's a lot of things that could look a lot different as a result. He only played 15 minutes there, but that second half, it was Jay Crowder, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, and Cameron Johnson ended up getting the start of that second half. So I'm assuming right now that that's who's going to see a bulk of the minutes there. That's less appealing than somebody getting out on the floor that can really do work, considering you have somebody like Cameron Payne that could really get things done in an offensive way here. Cameron Johnson, a three-point shooter going back to his days at North Carolina in college and in the NBA, not really lived up to the hype of what he was expected to be, but, a very serviceable player, just not going to be the most exciting fantasy player. But looking over at the Yahoo slate, I think you did a great job of encapsulating that slate. Gives us a great point to jump off with. And of course, they're going to be going game by game on the deeper dive coming up next. So don't go anywhere for that. And then Live Before Lock. So let's get to this slate on Yahoo, where I can't tell you how great this site is to be playing on day in, day out. They have a 5K baller here. I'm going to be playing a bunch of entries in that. It's almost going to be filled by the time we get to Live Before Lock. So I suggest getting in there now. 3,410 entries, 2,387 currently in there. Let's fill that thing up. Let's get that thing going right away. And if you're a new user, use promo code Awesemo to get that one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Every single sport we offer behind the paywall, including NBA, including NFL for Showdown tonight, which we're going to have an amazing show with Lofty, Alex, and Ben coming up at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. Man, I'm just kind of throwing out all the promos right from the get-go. This is fantastic. And now we can talk some Yahoo, and that's what we all are here to do. So let's look at this guard position. We have projections. We have a bunch of boom bust probability stuff that is now available here on the site for Yahoo as well. Makes my life super easy hosting, and also having Matt LaMarca helps me out a lot too. So we got the guard position. Some of the most popular plays come from Portland. CJ McCollum, Anthony Simons. There's no Damian Lillard. He's got that abdominal injury. He's going to be out here for a hot second. How are you kind of handling those major pieces of chalk on the slate?
Yeah, I think Simons is somebody that I'm going to have plenty of. He's only $14 on Yahoo, We've got plenty of point guard values. Some that are grading out as better values than Simons, but I do kind of feel like he's the safest of the bunch. He's been playing he played 35 minutes and change in their last game. He's averaged close to a fantasy point per minute with Lillard off the court this year. So I just feel like he kind of checks every box that you're looking for as a punt play, right? He's got the playing time, he's got the permanent upside, and he's got a pretty good matchup against the Spurs. So he's somebody that I'm very interested in. McCollum is somebody that I could see myself being underweight on. He's clearly a good player, and he can do a lot of, the same types of things as Damian Lillard. When Lillard goes out, he's a nice source of value typically, but I just think it's easier to find a pivot from him than it is a guy like Simons.
Well, we have the standard deviations there in the boom bust tool, basically utilizing what the player projection is going to be on the top and the bottom end. More expensive players generally are going to have a wider distribution of what their scoring could be because they can go for massive ceilings. And if the shot isn't falling for a guy who's shooting dependent like CJ McCollum, it's going to be down there on the floor. If you just group by standard deviation over in the boom bust tool, which isn't something most people do every single day, but I always like to look at it to kind of give me an idea of who might be some of the more volatile pieces. Giannis Antetokounmpo, because of his massive ceiling, has the largest standard deviation on the slate. It's rare that he's going to ever put up less than 35-40 for you in any kind of a spot, but because that ceiling can extend, I think the standard deviation increases a little bit. Same thing with DeJounte Murray, Chris Paul, Jaron Jackson, Nikola Vucevic, and then CJ McCollum sitting there at 9.1. I'm just looking at his range of outcomes with a floor of around 34.57. That's a nice floor, I guess. But in tournaments, I think it's the same thing where that ceiling isn't exactly beating down the door. And DeJounte Murray at $44 is a guy, I think, at the guard position that I'm just going to be prioritizing in tournaments around the industry today because I am shocked at how low his rostership is everywhere. 18.6% currently on Yahoo, less than half of what CJ McCollum is here. And I want to just get to those ceiling performances in tournaments. On Yahoo, you really have to pay for it to $44. But what do you think about him overall in the context of this slate?
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I mean, we know that his ceiling is astronomical on a nightly basis, right? If anybody on this slate can match Giannis, it might be Murray, right? Like Giannis is Giannis. He's always going to be, capable of giving us 75, 80 points. And if he does that, then so be it. He's the slate breaker, right? But if he gets us 60, Murray has shown us the ability that he can get there. Why are you laughing at me?
Two things. One, we just got SGA ruled out, so he's in concussion protocol. So we have massive breaking news 9 minutes into this show. I know we're going to have a ton of news coming up here on that. We're going to be talking on the Live Before Lock show, but you now have no Josh Giddey. You now have no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're looking at the chalkiest team on the slate in a spot where they could get absolutely thromped. They're already 9.5-point dogs against Memphis in this spot. I believe it's 212 total. Don't quote me on that. That's off the top of my head. I think that's what it is, though. I love every piece of OKC, and that's probably the most terrifying thing that I've said in my entire life. SGA out is just such a massive piece on this slate. So your initial reaction to that, and then we'll get to the super chat that Jordan Lockhart, you just keep dropping bombs, my guy. I appreciate you.
My initial thought is that I don't know how the Thunder can keep this game competitive. And I get that the Grizzlies are playing against the team. They're playing a Grizzlies team without Ja Morant, but like, who's their best player now? Lou Dort? Yeah, like
Lou Dort is their best player. Yeah.
It's rough. It is rough. So I do think that there are some obviously opportunities for some of these players, but I don't know if I feel confident that any of these guys can take advantage. Like I've talked myself into Trey Mann. I think he's pretty appealing. And obviously now he gets another boost without SGA, but like who else on this team are you feeling comfortable with?
Well, you lose a $32 Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You lose a $28 Josh Giddey on Yahoo. Your most expensive player is Lou Dort at $19. You then have Darius Baisley, who has been an offensive disaster. Still pretty good on the defensive end, but his wins above replacement or whatever the exact, I believe it's the offensive on Basketball Reference. Let me pull that up again because I was going through Baisley a little bit, trying to come up with reasons to actually like this guy going forward because I've been a mark for him in the past. It's been really, really brutal here for him. Looking at some of his advanced metrics, there it is. Offensive win shares is the word I was looking for. He's at negative 0.9 here. He was negative 2.3 last season, but then defensive win shares 1.5, 1.4, and 0.8 over the last 3 years. So somebody who can get it done in the block steals department from time to time on a half point or half point PPR. Oh my God, on a 3-point steals and block site. So I think on Yahoo we might be able to find a little bit of value with him as well, but my God, it's just wide open. And as you said, it's going to be projecting a blowout here. And for all intents and purposes, Luguentz Dort becomes a massive play on this slate. $19 here for him. Somebody that played 36 minutes last night. OKC continues to lose, but he continues to get minutes. So I really don't have a problem getting to him. Is there anybody else to really touch on here? I think I stalled long enough.
Yeah, I mean, Lu Dort's part definitely, like we've seen games last year when they were kind of tanking down the stretch. He'll just go out there and he'll post a 30% usage rate and he'll shoot 28% from the field and everybody's happy. Dort's happy. The Thunder management is happy and fantasy owners who played him are happy. The thing that hurts about the Thunder is that while their backcourt is going to give us plenty of opportunities, right? Like, they still have all their big guys for the most part. Like Mike Muscala is going to play tonight. They have Isaiah Roby. They have Pokashevsky. They have Darius Baisley. So the guy that I really was most interested in was Jeremiah Robinson Earl. And I still think you can play him, but I wouldn't expect another 34-minute performance from him with Mike Muscala back in the fold tonight.
Tell you what, Pokashevsky does become a little bit interesting to me. I mean, obviously going back to last season, he had more minutes that were available to him pre-Giddey, but now with Giddey out here, I'm looking through some of the usage numbers with SGA off the court over the last year, and you're looking at it being a setup for Luguentz Dort 25.7%, and then Hamidou Diallo is obviously out of town there. I should remove him. Darius Baisley 23.4%, Josh Giddey 21.5 there alongside him there. But yeah, you're looking at Pokashevsky 20.6% usage there. Seems like it's going to be a decent enough option, somebody that can get there. And then, God, it's just so bleak. I'm gonna have to keep going through this. We have tons and tons of news that we're going to be being able to cover here over the course of this show, the next show, and live before lock. So don't go anywhere. There's tons to mine out there, but let's go through the rest of this guard position while everything updates. That just changes a lot in terms of some of your value. You should like your lineups today. We'll throw that out there. Derrick Rose, my dude from the other night. And, you know, it was really sad because Alec Burks was really a priority for a lot of people. And I thought he was a little bit overvalued the other day, wasn't shining in the boom bust tool. And I just kind of pivoted to Derrick Rose and got a great game out of him. But it didn't matter when you have Alex Burks there at $17 at the exact number, and he went nuts. They're both $17 today. One's 22.8%. That's Alec Burks. One is at 9.8% Derrick Rose. I'm siding with Derrick Rose part 2. How about you?
Yeah, I think given the discrepancy in ownership, that makes sense. I do think that long-term, Burks is going to be the better producer of the two. You know, he's now the starter. He's got the full trust of Tom Thibodeau. And when Tibbs trusts you, he will run you into the ground with abandon. So I think Burks is a guy that I like. But when you factor in the ownership, both guys probably have pretty similar ceilings. I don't hate that call.
Okay. I just like Derrick Rose underneath Tibbs because they're in a relationship and I want to play the relationship. I just do. Derrick Rose is going to play lots of minutes without Kemba Walker here in this rotation. 34 minutes, just almost 35 minutes here the other night, 35.5 fantasy points. I do think Alec Burks is a good play, but I mean, we got to see, we can only play so many guys at the guard position and the opportunity cost is high. I'm prioritizing DeJounte Murray's ceiling because he's sub 20% here on this slate. We're going to have a ton of value that just got injected into this slate from OKC. We already have it from Portland and Phoenix. Good Lord, this is going to be nuts. I was going to be kind of banging the bell to fade a Giannis Antetokounmpo at $58 on Yahoo because it's so extreme. I think you just got enough value that you should be able to easily play him in any lineup, even on Yahoo. So looking forward to that. Anything else at the guard position that's sticking out to you? Is there a stand you're taking on anybody else that we haven't discussed?
So much sticks out at the guard position. I mean,
It's
we
incredible.
haven't mentioned Tyus Jones at $14.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't mentioned Cameron Payne at the absolute minimum. We haven't mentioned Emmanuel Quickly at the absolute minimum. There's literally just a million options tonight. So Like you like Derrick Rose. I might like Quickly as my Knicks pivot.
Okay.
He's somebody that we have projected for less than 7% ownership on DraftKings. Played 37 and a half minutes in their last game. He's got the ability to get hot quickly, pun intended. So yeah, there's just a million guards. I don't really know how you play them all, right? Like you want to take stands on some of these guys, but all of them have strong cases.
Well, this is also a 30-minute show. That was what I'm trying to keep. I'm trying to figure out the pacing of it. And it's like, well, I'll hit on some of the broad strokes and then we get a massive bombshell right in the middle of the show that kind of sends it a little bit off the rails. Also, I'm pretty sure we both said Alec Burks. I don't think either one of us said Alex. We both know it's not Alex Burks. Come on.
Clearly
Alec. Alec action. So whatever. If you misheard us or if we said something wrong, sorry, but such is life. YouTube chat really on top of the corrections, but you know what? You can really be on top of that like button. Hit that like button for us. Then all is well in the world. How about that segue? All right. Smooth. Again, we have 13 minutes left. Let's jump on over to forward. So I just talked about it. I kind of briefed you there. $58 for Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's the most expensive player at the forward position by $20. $20 over DeMar DeRozan, but I don't really need to go on and clamor on why you need to be playing Giannis Antetokounmpo's ceiling in tournaments now that there's a zillion pieces of value. He's right now at 20.2%, and I get it. It is a gigantic piece of the cap, more than 25% of the cap that you are spending the $200 budget on Yahoo for Giannis. I don't care. There's way too much value for me not to prioritize him over there. How about you?
100%. And I am exactly like you. I came into the day sort of lukewarm on Giannis. If you look at, today's spot compared to yesterday's spot, completely different, right? The Bucks were implied for 120 points yesterday against the Hornets. The Hornets play at one of the fastest paces in the league. They play no defense. Toronto has played at the third slowest pace in the league. So like this is a spot where the Bucks as a team are expected to score a whole lot less. Their implied team totals down about 10 total points. So I was fully prepared to be underweight on Giannis, but with all the value now, it's just impossible not to load up on this guy.
Yeah. And again, we're looking at a massive chasm in projection between him at the forward spot and the next guy. And that's Jaron Jackson Jr., who I think is the most important play on this slate, or was the most important play. I don't really know yet. I haven't processed all the ins and outs, but fortunately we've got 2+ hours to do so before lock. So plenty of time to be able to process everything from OKC. But Jaron Jackson Jr., the guy doesn't keep his hands to himself, but I don't really care when he's $27. He's the second highest projected player at the forward spot. We're projecting him here at Awesemo for 39.22 today. That's a distant second from Giannis's 50+, but Jaron Jackson Jr., what are you doing with him on this slate? A guy who is extremely volatile, but can really break down any slate so long as he stays out of foul trouble.
I mean, there's probably a case to be made that you should be fading Jaron Jackson whenever he's chalk, just because, like you said, he is such a volatile option. But I look at that last game that he played, and it's just impossible to stay away from that upside, right? He had 5 blocks and 4 made 3-pointers. There aren't a lot of guys in the league that can do both of those things. And his numbers with Ja off the court this season are fantastic. He played 34 minutes in their last game. That's a season high. Like everything lines up that this guy could hit, again, 50 fantasy points on this slate. And like you said, he's $27. So he's somebody that I'm going to be overweight on, and I'm going to be ready if he, fouls 18 times in the first 3 minutes. But again, like who on the Thunder are you scared of that is going to put him in foul trouble?
Nobody is probably the right answer. I mean, if there was a spot where you could just trust him to maybe keep it together, it would be here. I think it would actually be a big plus also to have Jaron Jackson, have Mike Muscala out there trying to knock down threes. Probably avoid some foul trouble in that regard too. So just kind of a little.
That's not a challenge, piece. Jaron. Leave him alone.
It's not a challenge. Please, my God, keep your hands to yourself, because for me, I do try to play guys like Jaron Jackson Jr. who have massive ceilings, who are very volatile when they're not popular. He's obviously very popular currently at $27, rightfully so. 39.2% rostership right now. That is the second highest on the slate behind CJ McCollum, 5% more than Yusuf Nurkic there at the center position. So wanted to talk about him specifically. because he seems like a very cornerstone piece for a lot of people today. 1.14 Yahoo points per minute over the course of the last calendar year. He can really get it done, especially in the absence of John Morant. But yeah, I'm going to be around the field as it stands right now. I might be looking at getting a little bit over. It's just too cheap for a guy that gives you such a nice ceiling there in a spot where, yes, OKC doesn't really offer a lot of resistance. But then on his same team, Dillon Brooks pulling 31.6% rostership. His number is $23, and that is just way too cheap for him and the amount of usage we can be expecting for him going forward. He thinks, Greg Ehrenberg really said it nicely. Dillon Brooks thinks that Dillon Brooks is the best basketball player on Memphis every single time he touched the floor, even alongside John Morant. I don't know a better way to put it than that. How much Dillon Brooks are you interested in today?
All the Dillon Brooks.
Way too cheap on Yahoo.
I understand that there is that Dillon Brooks has some haters, right? It's easy to be a Dillon Brooks hater, but the guy comes out and all he does is shoot the ball. How can you not love him as a fantasy player? And he gave us over 33 minutes in his last game. Like, the one concern that you had about Brooks was that his minutes had been limited, right? He gave us 35.7 Yahoo points in 21 minutes 2 games ago. He gave us less fantasy points in 12 additional minutes in game, in his most recent contest. So I think his ceiling is pretty astronomical if he's going to be a 34-minute a night type of guy.
Right there with you. And also look at the rest of the small forward position. It is bleak. It is dark. It is sadness. You're looking at Chris Middleton, the most expensive currently active guy with OG and Giddey out there. Chris Middleton, $27. Dillon Brooks then at 23. Mikal Bridges, 20. And then it just falls off a cliff here to the bottom end. There's really no other small forward that comes remotely close for me than Dillon Brooks. If I'm going to eat one piece of chalk over on Yahoo, and people know, if you've watched enough of these shows, that I love to eat me some chalk. Like literally, I don't know if Matt LaMarca is cued in on that joke. I'll fill you in after the show. Literally did such things because I'm a dumb. But $23 Dillon Brooks. You've eaten chalk too?
I had to do it in chemistry class in high school. The teacher gave extra credit if you ate a piece of chalk. We were learning about, acid and bases and stuff like that.
Did you know chalk is like the main ingredient of Pepto-Bismol?
Yeah, it's antacid essentially.
Yeah. So I was like not that terrified, but here's the thing. If you eat like the schoolyard chalk, first of all, I had to find the non-toxic
like the big
brand.
Fat ones?
Yeah. It was like a thinner piece of chalk. I found it at Home Depot and I rocked with it. And it was not the best day of my life. We'll put it that way. Hey, sponsor Yahoo. How we doing, everybody? Excited to be talking to them. Let's round this out here because we got 6 minutes. We got to talk center and then we got to hand it over to the guys for the deeper dive. But anything else at the forward position that you really feel strongly you want to share?
I think that you've got to take a stand on the Phoenix situation. You need to either play Cameron Johnson at the minimum or you've got to play Cameron Payne at the minimum. But I don't think you should be playing both in the same teams.
Agreed. All right, let's move it on over to center. We got 6 minutes to go. Let's do it. Nikola Vucevic, a guy that I've heard a lot of clamoring in chat right off the bat. And I believe on the strategy show this morning too, I like to kind of peruse the comment section, see if there's certain players earlier in the day that people are really talking up that I might not be completely obsessed with. But Nikola Vucevic right now, 12.2% over on Yahoo. I think you're getting a little bit of a discount on what that ceiling is. We have an unlimited amount of value that exists here. And again, I'm going to be targeting as much ceiling as possible at these positions. Giannis going to be a cornerstone of power forward. DeJounte Murray going to be a cornerstone for me, a point guard. And at center, I really like Nikola Vucevic. I understand Nurkic is $7 cheaper. I understand that Nurkic is going to be much more popular. That makes me think at a third of the rostership, Nikola Vucevic is a very interesting play on the top end. What do you think about him in the context of this slate and on this Bulls team?
Yeah, if you want to talk about chalk that we are not willing to eat today, for me, that guy is Yusuf Nurkic. I don't understand why he is popping as such an optimal play for a lot of people. His numbers this year with Lillard off the court are terrible. He's averaging like 1 fantasy point per minute. He's normally like a 1.3 type of guy. The team really hasn't shown a willingness to play him all that much more, right? He's gotten 27 and 26 and change minutes in his last 2 games. So I don't understand why he's chalk. I would much rather pay the extra $7 for Vucevic, who we know can give us 50 plus anytime he takes the floor. I don't like that you keep laughing. I think you're laughing at me.
No, chat is fantastic. Oh, sorry. I get carried away sometimes because I really do find everybody that's in chat. We got 1.1K of you guys, 1,100 already tuning in for some Yahoo. Hit that like button again. I want that thing up over 200 before we start that deeper dive. We're not quite there on my screen, so please get us there. That'd be so helpful. But I'm so sorry, Matt LaMarca. I just get so scared of being a nobody. Hop on over here. Happy to give the old kissy kiss, smooch. I want to kiss you all over. There you go. I knew you'd get that
Till
reference.
the night closes in.
Till the night closes in. You don't want breakfast? Okay, let's ride. Let's finish this thing out. We got center the rest of it. We got Pascal Siakam, $32. I think it makes a lot of sense. How do we go from just that to that? I love life so much. DeAndre Ayton, going to be another piece, $28. You talk about Yusuf Nurkic being somebody that doesn't necessarily see a bump with Damian Lillard on the floor. DeAndre Ayton, based on just a one-game sample size, we're just going to say the second half of basketball went pretty well for one DeAndre Ayton. Once Devin Booker left it 11 for 19. That is volume that we haven't seen out of him in a long, long time. Having Devin Booker out has to create a lot of shot attempts for a lot of guys. Cameron Johnson going to be a big part of a lot of people's slates. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty lukewarm on Cameron Johnson, shooting dependent player here, but DeAndre Ayton, I'm really bullish at $28. Him and Vooch going to be big parts of my center position over on Yahoo, on other sites. What do you think about him to kind of round this out?
I'm lukewarm on Ayton. I hear what you're saying. You know, Chris Paul having the ball in his hands more should only be good for Ayton because Paul is more willing as a distributor. But you know, that game against the Warriors are a great defensive team, but they don't have any size on the interior. The Pistons at least have a little bit of size. I don't know. I'm reaching, but I don't necessarily feel like Ayton is going to smash just because Devin Booker's out.
I didn't say that. I just think that we got to play a center. I like DeAndre Ayton. Okay. Yes, I do think DeAndre Ayton's going to smash in the same way that I thought Rashawn Holmes was going to smash last night. And he would have, if there was a little extra run. Shout out to you, Jordan Frank. You know what's up, my guy. You know what's good. All right. Anything else at the center position? I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl might be a guy that we can look at here now if we're looking for some savings at the position, just because, you know, this all just broke and he's $10 and he's going to see minutes, and there are a lot of shot attempts up for grabs, almost 34 minutes. I think at $10, he becomes an exponentially better play in the context of the slate. I'll be referring to the boom bust tool. I suggest you do the same. What do you think about him and anybody else for this slate to round it out?
Yeah, give me Jim Bob at 10. I think that's a good price for him. And yes, I call him Jim Bob. Don't know if that's a officially sanctioned nickname, but it is for me. I want to throw Bobby Portis out there at $24. I like Bobby Portis. I've been playing Bobby Portis all season. No DeMarcus Cousins tonight for whatever that's worth, if it's worth anything, but
it is. Hey, he played minutes. The guy played minutes. Right? He played 15 minutes last night.
So I think Portis gets back to, 30 plus minutes tonight, and he can do some things with that much playing time.
All right. Anything else for the people as we round out this show, Matt LaMarca?
Be like water, as Bruce Lee would say. Make sure to do your thing. If you're playing tonight, this could be a big late swap night. We've got, all sorts of different avenues that you can go. So if door A is closed for you, don't be afraid to explore door B.
God, that was such a fun half hour. I'm really glad that I was able to fill in there. I just appreciate you guys. I'll see you back here in an hour. But now it is time to turn this over to the Deeper Dive crew. That's Josh. That's Adam. They're going to be giving you all the hard-hitting analysis here for this 5-gamer. Thank you so much to producer Jordan Klein. I'll be saying that again. He and I are getting along today, so we're off to a good start. Matt LaMarca, appreciate you as always. Appreciate you, chat. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. We're out. See you soon.
you. Like I just we'll figure it out.
I forgot the Prelude.
So do I. We're gonna build that rotation on the fly when we talk. I'm not looking at it now. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Thursday, December 2nd. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Adam Scher. We are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. And we got a bit of a big one in the last half hour. No SGA today. We will dig into that Oklahoma City side in a bit. But first, before we do anything here, 1,300 plus people, 260 likes. That's actually not a bad start for the boys before us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done it already. Helps us out a ton. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Adam, this one just got crazy.
Yeah, we went from, sort of limited value this morning and the value you did have being extremely obvious and popular to just a wide open slate of a lot of things that could go a lot of different ways.
I have no idea where that one's going to go. That is going to be an insane game. I'm actually happy that Ja Morant isn't able to play for Memphis, or this one would look even worse, but we're going to dig into all of it. We got a ton of time to do so. 2 games kick off at 7:30. See, this isn't the fun kind of slate. Tuesday was great. Today, 7:30, 8, 9, 10. That is the trickle that I wasn't looking for, but we're going to talk about it anyway. And we will start with the Chicago Bulls. 2-point favorites in New York, 210 total. Not too much we have to really pay attention to here. On the Chicago side, we know that there's no Kobe White for the near future. Zach LaVine is in. On the Knicks side, Q-tag on RJ Barrett, Q-tag on Nerlens Noel, Q-tag on Jericho Sims, which I'm not confident matters at all. But the Barrett one is the swing piece. Let's start on the Chicago Bulls side, where not a lot of ownership coming in. And I didn't really like the game earlier. Got about 10% coming to DeRozan and LaVine on DK. It's a little bit different on FanDuel, where DeRozan is just 8,400 and shooting guard small forward eligible. Note that I did not say power forward, which is his only designation on DraftKings. 24% owned there, 17% on FanDuel for LaVine. How are you feeling about Chicago?
I think that they are a somewhat appealing team in tournaments. I don't think they have much of a role in cash tonight, especially now that we just got a bunch of other stuff opening up. But the reason I think that they're still somewhat appealing in tournaments is just that I think they're pretty obviously overpriced by a little bit for everybody to be in, but it's not by like a crazy wide margin where they have to do anything super outlandish to really pay off their salaries. There's still a pretty good chance that one of DeRozan, LaVine, Vooch, or even Lonzo at 7,200 have a good game for their salary. It's just that you can't be particularly confident which one it's going to be. If this game's competitive, they're all likely to play big minutes. We saw 35 minutes last game from Vooch. You're typically getting around 36 in competitive games from the other 3 anyway. So using them as low-owned, high-upside pieces makes some sense, but there's not one of them that really stands out to me as, anyone that I think is great. Kind of trying to think about, how New York has been defensively this year. I think LaVine would be the one that I have the most confidence in, just because they have been better at defending the paint than they have been defending the perimeter. But, still it's pretty much a toss up most nights who's going to carry the offense between, DeRozan, LaVine, and Vooch.
This does get really tricky, particularly in a matchup against the Knicks. The guy that I'm getting to the most on FanDuel at 6,700 is Lonzo Ball, but even then it's not a lot. This is one of the lowest teams that I have, at least heading into this pre-Oklahoma City news. The Knicks were shaping up to be my second lowest exposed team, the Bulls were shaping up to be my second lowest exposed team, basically just behind the Knicks. Is there anything we could look at to go deeper on the Bulls? Because it seems like we kind of just draw a line after Javonte Green. It's DeRozan, LaVine, Ball, Vooch, Caruso, Green. Nobody else really playing enough that can sniff it.
Yeah, that's all that I see. I mean, there's kind of like a line after Vooch, LaVine, DeRozan, Ball. Then there's another line after Caruso, Green, where I just can't really get beyond that at all. Caruso at 5,200 is likely to play around 30 minutes here. He's fine. I don't really feel strongly one way or the other. I doubt that I get to much. Javonte Green played like 35 minutes last game. I'm not particularly confident that happens again. It certainly could, but that was the first time that we'd seen that happen. I think there's a decent chance with Kobe White out here that you see Tony Bradley get back into the rotation to at least play a few minutes against a big Knicks front court. And then that you get, 26 to 28 minutes from Green. So I'm with you. Outside of those 6, there's nobody that is even I don't have anybody projected for enough points to be in my player pool after those 6.
I am in agreement with you there. And I don't think that I really see too many priorities coming from Chicago. Just the general rotate through everything you see that plays a lot of minutes type guys.
Yep.
Always fun. Definitely have a little bit more to talk about here on the Knicks side, however. And I'm going to start by saying I'm assuming that RJ Barrett plays. Do you have him in right now?
I have him in right now, but I also haven't put much effort into figuring it out because it's one of the first games of the night.
Sure. I'm with you there. But obviously, if he's not in, we're going to be talking about the rotational guards a little bit differently than we would be. So I want to make sure that at least you and I were starting on the same base. Julius Randle is projected for 25% ownership on FanDuel, where he's 8,500, gets both designations, power forward, center. After that, it's Burks and Quickly around 10%. Same sort of story on DraftKings. It just so happens that Julius Randle isn't as highly owned as he is on FanDuel, but it's Burks and Quickly, the guys, well, actually Burks and Rose that are getting the ownership there, not Quickly. Quickly, $5K on DraftKings is a fun price. I'm not confident here, so let's talk about it. Burks, something in the neighborhood of 35 minutes?
That's what I'm expecting. So going into last game, this is kind of an example of where you kind of need to lean on what you, at least to some extent, to what you were expecting last game, because there were some changes with Barrett getting hurt mid-game, but we can read a little bit into the rotations that we saw before Barrett got hurt. My expectation going into last game was that you were going to get a 9-man rotation from the Knicks with 9-man rotation with Kemba not in there, and you would have Burks playing multiple positions. So I thought that you would get Burks starting at point guard, and then either he goes to the bench or RJ Barrett or Fournier, one of those guys goes to the bench. Derrick Rose comes in, and then Burks comes back in later, or some combination of that. That's pretty much what we saw. Burks played about 18 minutes in the first half, 19 minutes. I expect him to play 34 to 36 minutes going forward, even when Barrett is in. I think you get more playing time for Derrick Rose than he was getting earlier in the year. I don't necessarily think you get 35 minutes a game when RJ Barrett is in, but I think it's likely you get 30 minutes or so, give or take on Derrick Rose. So,
okay.
I think my expectation for Rose is that you see something similar to what you saw last game, except probably subbing in a little bit later in the third quarter. I think that he may or may not close the first half. I think he is typically going to close the second half.
Okay. So you're going 30 on Rose?
Somewhere in there. Yeah, I think.
Okay. We're a little, so I've got him at 26 because I have very little confidence in that Quickly Rose Fournier trio. Although I would say, I think Rose is more likely to be out there than Quickly, for example.
Yeah. I mean, I could see going 28 to 30 on Rose. But yeah, okay. I mean, my expectation is most games, the closing lineup is Rose, Burks, Barrett, Randle, center.
Okay. So then I assume you're not wildly interested in Emmanuel Quickly today.
Not if Barrett plays.
Sure. What are your thoughts on Barrett then, if he's in? 5,300 across both sites.
So Barrett's the one guy that I don't really think a whole lot changed for him. At 5,300, he certainly can pay that off. He's likely to play low to mid 30s in minutes, but whereas I think Kemba being out of the rotation gives Quickly a path to more minutes when he's playing well. It gives Rose and Burks more minutes. Barrett, I think, is still kind of just there. He's been a low to mid 30s guy typically anyway. I think that he's likely to remain there. He hasn't been great this year from a fantasy standpoint, but he's also pretty cheap. So he's just someone that sort of ends up in some lineups for me, but I don't really think that a whole lot changed for him one way or the other. Overall this season, he's at 0.83 DraftKings points per minute. I expect that to be the case going forward, give or take. I expect them to, play 33, 34 minutes most nights.
All righty. Well, then where do we land on Fournier, who has not been very good lately or just in general for the Knicks? Played 22 minutes this last time out, even with RJ Barrett finishing after 8.5 minutes. Does anything change for Fournier?
I don't really think so if Barrett is in, because we've just seen Fournier not be the preferred closing option for Tibbs.
Yeah.
And I don't really think much is going to change that unless he just starts playing a lot better. So if Barrett's in, I think Fournier is kind of the odd guy out of the closing lineup, and then it's going to be Rose usually, sometimes Quickly. But if Barrett's out, then you're getting I would assume you're getting one of Fournier or Quickly, probably depending on who's playing better. So Fournier and Quickly are both guys that I think are heavily influenced tonight by whether or not RJ Barrett plays.
It's a complicated Knicks team in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and it's, I mean, it's a spot where I think reasonable minds can differ too. Like, I don't think necessarily that people that aren't quite as confident in Derrick Rose as I am are wrong. You know, like, I know that's how I'm playing it, is that I think Rose is going to continue to play a good amount of minutes, but it's not like it would be shocking if, you know, a week from now it's just like, okay, well, apparently Quickly is that guy. So yeah, I think that it's still difficult to say with a lot of confidence how this is going to go, because we've seen basically half a game of it, you know, before Barrett got hurt. But the way that half of a game went was in line with exactly what I expected to happen. So for now, I'm just holding to the way that I'd projected it last time.
How are you feeling about Randall, since he's sort of independent of this entire discussion? It doesn't really matter who's in or out. Randall's just going to be doing Randall stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's fine. The price tag is about where it should be. I think the ownership's about where it should be. Certainly not going to talk anyone off of getting to a $9,500 Julius Randle. One other thing that probably drives up his ownership a little bit tonight. Well, one, we just have a ton of value now, so it's easy. But I had said it about DeJounte Murray this morning, and it applies to Randle as well. Normally, someone like Randle has a lot of competition at that price point that you can go to. There's not as much tonight because you have Damian Lillard out, you have Morant out. So now you have SGA out. Not that he was the same price, but he was another guy kind of in that tier. There's just gonna be a lot of lineups that you build where it's just like, okay, well, I have enough money for Julius Randle. I'm not really upgrading anything here by, you know, going lower. So I'm just gonna play Julius Randle. So I think that's one reason why you see a little bit of ownership on him as well.
All righty. Anything else we're worried about here? Do you have any interest in Mitchell Robinson? I'm assuming the Nerlens Noel news isn't all that important to you. He just becomes Taj Gibson if it's not Nerlens Noel.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is if Noel is out, I do think you could give an extra couple of minutes to Robinson, just because I think, at least my read on it is, when it's Robinson Noel, you're kind of just getting like a true split because Noel is going to get his minutes. I think it's a little bit more when it's Robinson Gibson, along the lines of like Robinson is the center and then Gibson is the backup. Whereas when it's Robinson Noel, I think it's kind of just like Tibbs views them as the same guy, basically.
Anything else here?
No, I think it's a team that I'll get a decent amount of, but it's definitely one that you should be paying attention to the ownership. Like right now, I don't think anything stands out as particularly crazy. But if we were to get an ownership update where, you know, Burks gets a lot higher or Rose gets a lot higher, you know, I think that you can still, as long as you're setting groups to make sure that, you know, things make sense and you're not kind of like blocking yourself out. I think that getting to the lower owned guys here could make some sense if the popular guys start being a little bit more popular.
Weird game. Yeah. Weird game. Andrew Kang with the super chat said, "What up, fam? Been a while. Back in the dark world of live pot limit Omaha. Hope all you've been doing well." That's a game to sit down and play. And I'm really happy that I remembered that PLO was that. been a hot minute since I've played any cards.
Yeah, I don't know how I used to play live cards. I don't know how I used to play poker at all. Like, I can't even play online anymore without losing my, like, getting bored after 2 hours. But I tried to play live over like the MLB All-Star break. I went down to the poker room at the hotel one time, and after like 2 hours, I was just like, all right, I need to go do something else.
Yeah. At least online, it's, you know, you get a couple monitors set up, get as many games going as you can, and you could at least keep yourself busy. I think we just didn't have as much shit to do back in the day. You didn't have a cell phone, or like a smartphone. When
I think
was at its peak.
I just had a better attention span too.
Less distractions. There was just less going on. The internet was a different place in 2006.
I used to enjoy it more too, I guess. Like back in 2010, you know, like I was 20 and trying to make money playing poker, and it was like I would look forward to playing like 12 hours a day. Now, like during quarantine, I tried to get back into it, and I would just start doing dumb shit because I got bored after like 2 hours.
Alan Alexander says live poker is awesome. I could not disagree more. Unless you're playing with friends. Like I don't want, if I'm playing with like 6 strangers, I'm going to lose my mind in a half hour.
I prefer playing with strangers over playing with friends.
Well, I just don't want to play with strangers. Like I'm going to want to be on my phone or like doing something else like if I have to fold hands for like 45 minutes, what in the world am I going to do while I'm sitting there?
Yeah.
It's just like, we don't really have situations now where we have idle hands any longer. At least I certainly don't. I'm just always paying attention to something. If I just get dealt shit for the better part of an hour, I'm going to be at the buffet or something, doing something else. At least if it's with my friends, I could talk shit and, you know, do the fun stuff that's at a poker table. It's not important any longer. What is important, though, is the schedule for the rest of the day. coming up immediately after this, 6:30 NBA Live before lock. They'll be going all the way up until lock. And then we've got NFL Live before lock starting 15 minutes before they finish up, 7:15. That'll be YouTube only. But we've got some NFL games tonight. You should check them out. NBA player rankings are free. NFL top plays tool free. And NHL top stacks tool are free. So that's where we're at. Let's move it on to Milwaukee and Toronto. This one we actually have a lot to talk about. Giannis, aggressive chalk on FanDuel, 11K with his hilarious small forward eligibility. He's 19% owned on DraftKings where he's 12K. And then we get Holiday, Middleton, Portis soaking up a little bit of ownership. Not too much else coming in here. I'm certainly not going to be getting to Boogie Cousins anytime soon, even when he is available, but he is not available today. Talk to me about the Bucks.
I think that they're not priorities today. They're kind of like the mid-range, excluding Giannis. They're kind of like the mid-range Bulls, where Middleton, Holiday, Portis, even Grayson Allen, I think all look reasonable, but they're not getting that much ownership. If you're going mid-range, though, I think that they look pretty good. Giannis, though, just getting easier and easier to get into lineups. 11K on FanDuel looks really good. 12K on DraftKings looks fine as well. Early in the day, I thought it might be a little bit difficult to not necessarily get him into lineups, but build lineups that were somewhat contrarian, like because there were only a few cheap plays you could go to. So I thought there was a chance that you were just going to end up with lineups where, everybody's using the same value to get to Giannis. Now with SGA being out, I think there's more creative ways that you can go. So I think I'm more likely to get to Giannis now than I was earlier. Not a great matchup against Toronto, but the game does only have a 4-point spread. He's averaged 1.85 DraftKings points per minute in the 10 games he's played with Middleton and Holiday this year. Since last year, he's 1.6 to 1.7 DraftKings points per minute. So I think pretty clearly the top projected player on the slate.
Yep. And it's not even close for me.
Yeah, me neither.
I have him just so that we can look at it. I have Giannis, and I'll go on DraftKings since we're talking, so we can talk about the same thing, by 11.5 points over anybody else on this slate.
I haven't finished my stuff, but I have him at like 59 points.
Ooh, well, either you're going to be a little bit higher on everybody, or that gap is going to be even bigger because I got him at 56.5.
I'm just higher on everybody.
Okay,
I
got it 56.5.
57 is probably what would be relative to you.
Okay. Well, then there we go. Same sort of ballpark. 1.66 FanDuel points per minute is where I'm at right now. Is there anything else interesting here? Is it just sort of, play Holiday and Middleton and Portis and hope for the best?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much what it is. The only thing I guess to mention is that Cousins is out tonight. So we didn't necessarily see him take minutes from Portis last night. Portis only played 26 minutes. But if you look at the rotation, it was actually that they closed with Pat Connaughton instead of Portis. So it wasn't necessarily you shouldn't draw the conclusion that Cousins took 6 minutes or something from Portis. But it does, potentially solidify his minutes a little bit, just not having Cousins.
Yeah. Gary Trent is active, by the way. That is very relevant information for what we're about to do right now, which is transition to the Toronto Raptors. I do think it's very interesting that Norm Powell and Gary Trent are both questionable today on a slate where, those two guys got traded for each other last year.
Yeah, I'm curious how many years it's going to take for me to stop mixing those guys up in my head.
They might as well be the same person.
From a fantasy standpoint, from everything.
Yeah. I just assume that they wear a jersey that says like Trent /Powell, or it's like reversible or something.
Right.
Well, this is pretty much the same thing we always talk about for Toronto. Fred VanVleet, Siakam, Barnes, Trent, and Precious Achiuwa, all between 10 and 15% owned on DraftKings, all basically between 15 and 20 on FanDuel. I'm assuming Gary Trent is going to project for a little bit more ownership on FanDuel once we get the update now that he's officially active. And I don't really have any huge priorities on either side. I just want to have some of all five of these dudes.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think that Trent being in, the biggest impact it has is that I don't think we need to play the game of how many minutes is Svi Mykhailiuk going to play between 17 and 38. But I think which was a fun game for me the other night when it ended up being 17 and I didn't play him. But yeah, other than that, though, I mean, Trent doesn't make too big of a difference, I don't think. I'm still expecting that you're going to get 38 to 40 minutes from VanVleet. I still expect you're getting 36 to 38 from Siakam and Barnes. One note on Siakam, he did deal with some foul trouble last game, so don't read into the 32 minutes he played. He's still likely to play upper 30s here. Scotty Barnes likely to play a bunch of minutes as well. Gary Trent himself looks okay at 5,600, but not really a priority. And then the piece that is most favorably priced that burned everyone last time, Precious Achiuwa, 4,600. I'm interested to see where his ownership ends up. Right now on DraftKings, we have him at 15% owned, which I think is reasonable. He was 33% owned last slate, which I thought was insane. He played a bunch of minutes until he fouled out. He just didn't do anything. Yeah. One issue for Achiuwa is that he's been really bad in the 4 games he has started alongside Pascal Siakam. He's only averaged 0.61 DraftKings points per minute. I don't think that holds going forward, but I do think you should expect his production to drop off somewhat. Overall this season, when he's played alongside Siakam, he's at 0.78 DraftKings points per minute. I think that's reasonable, to expect somewhere around 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute from Achiuwa when he's playing alongside Siakam here. So, I guess just saying, you should temper your expectations compared to what he was doing earlier in the year before Siakam came back from a fantasy standpoint. But with Birch out, he's still likely to play a bunch of minutes here. I think he's still likely to produce around 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute. So as long as the ownership doesn't get carried away, I don't mind going back to him here.
Yeah, I have a bit. It's kind of scary. He's got the power forward eligibility as well on FanDuel, so it's kind of a very different discussion than it is on DraftKings, where it's center only. You're just naturally going to get to more Precious on FanDuel with that eligibility for today. So I do have some. We'll see where that ends up. I basically have 26% of all 5 starters for the Raptors right now, so that's kind of interesting. Just mix them up in a bowl, pick 2 or 3 of them, and call it a day, I guess. It's a good spot in a way. Milwaukee is 7th in pace right now, Toronto 25th. So we're getting a bit of a pace up spot. And it's not like the defense is going to be a little bit different for Milwaukee. I mean, Brook Lopez is going to be out now for, not that he's been playing, but an extended amount of time after having back surgery. Maybe he and Michael Porter Jr. can hang out. Do you have anything else here for Toronto?
Not Toronto related, but normally I hate answering 1v1s, but someone asked Rose versus Walker in chat. I've never been more confident answering Derrick Rose.
Is that a real question?
I'm assuming they just missed the news last game that Walker doesn't play anymore.
I want to see the question now. Way too legit. That is not a good question. It's going to be really great. It's not going to be great. Derrick Rose is going to get the poops like a minute into this game, and Kemba Walker is going to play like 18 minutes.
I was going to say Rose turns it over, gets hurt, and Kemba beats him.
Yeah. That would be a good one too. You win 0 to negative 0.5. All right. You ready?
Yep.
The Oklahoma City Thunder are some sort of large amount of points underdogs to the Memphis Grizzlies with something in the 210-ish range of a total. There's a lot of people for the Oklahoma City Thunder today. No Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no Josh Giddey, no Kenrich Williams, no Derek Favors, no Theo Maledon. I don't know what a Vit Krejci is, but he can't play today. I think I got everybody. No Aaron Wiggins as well. I mean, obviously it's the Thunder, so a couple of those names are probably, that's the first time you've ever heard them like audibly. Let's talk about this piece first. And even this has a gigantic caveat. Who do we expect to definitely play for the Thunder? And by definitely, I mean, these are the guys that normally play.
Dort, Mann, Baisley, Robinson, Earl. So, I mean, I expect all 10 guys to play. But
yes, I expect all 10 available guys to play as well. When I say to play, I mean like the guys that normally play legitimate minutes.
So like the guys that are in that we would normally be playing.
Yes.
Yeah, so Dort, Mann, Baisley. Well, Dort, Baisley, Robinson, Earl, and then after yesterday, Mann.
Yes. Let's talk about those guys since they are sort of independent of this discussion. Dort, Baisley, Mann, Earl. I think we're pretty confident that those 4 guys are in the starting lineup, and the 5th person is very certainly TBD. How do we feel about those 4 expected starters?
Somewhere between good and really bad.
Yep.
I mean, they're cheap. They're underpriced for sure for their upside. May as well just say it now. There is a legitimate chance that Memphis just wipes the floor with these guys and that you just get really flat minutes everywhere because it's just a shit show. But putting that aside, Lou Dort's going to have a ton of opportunities here. He has a 27% usage rate going back to last season without Gilgeous-Alexander, Horford, or Giddey on the floor. He's not the most efficient scorer, but he is going to get shots up. We see the usage rate go up whenever Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't play. He is going to play huge minutes if this game's competitive as well. Played 36 last night. I have him in for 34 right now. I didn't want to go too low on him, but I also don't want to get too carried away. He looks solid at 5,700. Baisley is a 0.91 fantasy point per minute guy since last year without those three on the floor. If this game's competitive, there's plenty of minutes for him. He's only 4,500 on DraftKings. Tre Mann, I think, is the safest option here and just the best value. He's 3,600 on DraftKings. I had mentioned to you before the show that I kind of had a not really strong, but kind of a semi-warm fade Tre Mann take in tournaments, thinking, when Gilgeous-Alexander was in, because he had played like all of his minutes alongside SGA last night, and his rates this year are non-existent when they share the floor. But Gilgeous-Alexander not playing, you're going to have the ball in Mann's hands a lot more. Overall this season, he has a 23.5% usage rate. In a small sample, including the preseason, without SGA or Giddey on the floor, he has a 30% usage rate. So there's plenty of room for it to go up. I don't even need to project it that high for him to look really, really good here. And then the other positive is that, not that it's a guarantee, but even if this game goes sideways and turns into a blowout, I would assume Tre Mann's just getting run anyway, because why not? So whereas they would probably try and rest guys like Dort and Baisley, I think Mann's just getting his regardless. Jeremiah Robinson Earl has plenty of minutes he can play here. I assume that you're going to have some combination of him, Muscala, and Roby also like playing the 4 and the 5. So that helps to solidify those minutes. He played about 33 to 34 minutes last night. I think you get 30 to 32 at least here. He's been around a 0.8 to 0.85 fantasy point per minute guy. So all of them look good. I think Tre Mann is the one I'm the most confident in, since he's the cheapest, and I just think he's going to need to do a lot here.
So when I mentioned I didn't know who's going to be the fifth starter, a lot of people in chat immediately went to Ty Jerome. That is not a name that you or I mentioned when we were talking before this show about who we thought the fifth starter was going to be.
He was my third guess.
He was also my third guess as well. He seems to be the leader in the clubhouse. This game starts at 8. Do you think we know this information before 7:30?
Probably.
Mm-hmm. So you went with Poku as your first thought. My first thought was Gabriel Deck. I assume that the 2,300, well, most of the 2,300 people that are in here right now are hearing Gabriel Deck's name for the first time. I don't have any confidence in either one of those decisions. How are we playing the other 6 guys that are playing today?
Yeah, and Gabriel Deck was my second guess. So
yes.
Whoever starts, I think you at least have a little bit more confidence in their minutes, because it's a signal that they are getting the first shot at playing time. The reason I said Pokusevski is not based on anything that we've seen this year in terms of them wanting to play him. The only reason I said it was, the only reason I said it was their first half rotation yesterday. He subbed in for, so Jerome didn't play any minutes alongside me yesterday, is why I went Pokusevski over Jerome, and then Deck kind of for the same reason. Doesn't mean that has to be the case, and I did give Jerome some minutes alongside Mann today. Pokusevski also played like 1 minute in the second half yesterday, so you could also get Paul Watson in there. I think that's a reasonable guess too.
Agreed.
I think that from a fantasy standpoint, you want Pokusevski or Jerome to be the starter, because they are the ones that actually do things when they're on the floor. Paul Watson typically doesn't do a whole lot of anything. Gabriel Deck has barely played, but he actually, since last year, he's played 227 total minutes without Giddey, Horford, or SGA. He has produced 0.88 DraftKings points per minute. So if he were to start and get minutes, he would look okay, but the minutes would be really questionable. If Pokusevski or Jerome start, I guess what I'm saying is those two would give me the most confidence that they can actually play decent minutes and produce. Watson, I think, can play decent minutes. I don't really have confidence in his production. Deck, I think, can produce, but I have no idea how many minutes he would play.
Yeah. So will you give anybody 30 minutes of like outside of that original group?
No, I had, so
28 as a cap is probably where I'm going to be for the fifth starter, and
How
after
many did you
that,
say?
no, 28 as a cap for like whoever I think the fifth starter is.
Yeah, I had 28 if it's Pokusevski. I was even considering dropping that to 26, but I think 28 works. But yeah, 20. I would say like 26 to 28 if it's Pokusevski or Jerome, or Watson. If it's Dak, I probably go like 24 to 26.
Ryan Colucci, the Thunder coach, is not an idiot. I actually think that they picked up a good coach. You can't evaluate Mark Dagnall based on the. I mean, like, we basically bought his ingredients at like the discount grocery. Like, you can't be mad at him because the food sucks.
Yeah.
All right. Who don't we play today for the Oklahoma City Thunder?
I mean, there's.
Do you want to play anybody that doesn't start?
Yes.
Okay.
So in 150 lineups, yes. In one lineup, probably not. If Ty Jerome,
that's got to be a guaranteed no that you're not playing a non-starter for the Thunder in a single lineup.
Yeah, okay. Or three
Come
max
on.
also. Yeah,
sure.
Okay, so if Ty Jerome doesn't start, he's still 3,200. He's still a solid fantasy producer. There's a lot of ways he can still get to the mid-20s in minutes, whether that is just by design. He ends up playing a few more minutes than I'm expecting. Like, if he comes off the bench, I have him at 20 minutes, but I'm fully aware that could be a few minutes low. But also you could just get, a blowout or some weird game flow where he just picks up a few more minutes. So he would get virtually no ownership, I assume, if he comes off the bench. I would still have some interest in him because he's a good fantasy producer. I still have a little bit of interest in Muscala just because he's a very good per minute guy. The issue is that on DraftKings, he's only a center, but he is 3K flat. He's someone where I don't think it's very likely he plays more than like 16-ish minutes, but if he somehow does, then you kind of have to have him. So that's why I would have some interest there. I don't really want to get to Roby, especially because he's also only a center on DraftKings. I don't really want to get to Watson if he's not starting. I don't want to get to Dak if he's not starting.
Agreed.
Pokusevski, if he's not starting, you could make a case for kind of the same sort of case as Ty Jerome.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be, if any of them start, you can get to them. I already kind of gave my priorities as who I would like to start, but if any of them start, you can get to them. Off the bench, I don't want Dak. I don't want Watson. I'd still be fine with Jerome, Pokusevski, Muscala.
And by the way, we do on the website, we have it with the lead, of Ty Jerome as the fifth starter. That is the way that it's being projected now. I think that I can pretty confidently speak for Alex when I say that we're not like super confident on that number, but that one's tough. Yeah, we're getting a lot of like Trey Mann questions in chat. Yes, obviously.
Yeah,
that one's one of the easiest.
Most confident in from this team.
Yes, that should not be that. It's not even up in the air. Well, I mean, like, it could be. Anybody could start at this point for the Oklahoma City Thunder, but based on the past two games, I assume Trey Mann is playing like 32 minutes today, or more.
Somebody, I guess people don't really like the Muscala mention. I'll clear it up. He's averaging 1.11 DraftKings points per minute this year, and he's 3K flat.
Yeah.
I think he plays like 16 minutes, in which case he's not really useful, and that's why I'm not saying I'm going to get to much. If I'm wrong, which there's a very good chance I'm wrong about a lot of shit in this game. If he somehow just gets a few more minutes, he can easily be a slate winning play. So, I don't know.
Let's remember, like, if Jeremiah Robinson Earl gets into foul trouble, there's nothing stopping Mike Muscala from playing 24 minutes today.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe people just like don't like his name or something, but he's been a very, very good fantasy producer this year.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have him out there for defensive abilities here. Like, he's an offensive center. And like that might be offensive, but I shouldn't have made that joke. Is there anything else we could even say here? Like, everything matters based on that fifth starter, and they could conceivably use basically anybody else on the roster to be that fifth guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
I hate it so much. I would honestly be totally fine if DraftKings and FanDuel came out and said, like, we're just going to cut that game from the slate. It's 4 games today.
Remember when they started doing that with the Kings a couple of years ago? I think it was the Kings.
Really?
I want to say it might not have been. There was somebody that they didn't do it every slate, but if they were like one of the late games. If I remember correctly, they were just like cutting it.
I don't remember that at all.
Okay, so I'm like 90% sure it happened. There's a 10% chance it was just wishful thinking on my part. But
Okay.
I think I remember there being a spot where like it didn't happen a lot, but there was just a team that was like an absolute nightmare. And it might have even just been one of the sites, but they just kind of started when they could, just like abbreviating their slates.
I mean, I'm all for it. Thomas Kingston with the super chat. Need to choose 3 in one lineup for super draft, I assume, or maybe showdown. Nope, got to be super draft. CP3, Murray, McCollum, Dort, or Van Vliet playing Cade in a forward spot. I mean, that's got to be what, Murray and CJ, or Murray and Van Vliet, one of the two. It's got to be Murray.
Hang on, I need to read it now. People were confirming that it was the Kings on DraftKings.
Oh, okay, nice.
Need to choose 3 in one lineup. CP3, Murray, McCollum, Dort, Van Vliet. CP3 for sure. Murray for sure. CP3, Murray, McCollum.
CP3 over Van Vliet?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that was pretty close.
I think it's close.
Murray and McCollum for me are definite.
Yeah, I think it's close. The only reason it's close, though, is because they're playing the Pistons. And he also said he has Cade. So having Cade makes me want CP3 for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's not the way that I was thinking about it. All right, let's go to Memphis, where we know that we don't have Ja Morant, and we do have a lot of ownership coming to this team, or at least the primary 4. Brooks, Bain, Jones, and Jackson, 35, 27, 33, and 42% owned on FanDuel, in the high teens to 20s on DraftKings. I'm going to be getting to quite a bit of Dillon Brooks on FanDuel. I'm going to be getting to, unfortunately, too much Tyus Jones at 4,600 on FanDuel. I really like the Memphis starters.
Yeah, they look good. There is obviously plenty of blowout risk here, but they have to score points to blow them out. So, well, I guess they don't, but they probably score points if they blow them out. Jaron Jackson makes a ton of sense. You got 34 minutes last game. As long as he can stay out of foul trouble, you're likely to see more of the same. He's around a 1.25 DraftKings point per minute guy alongside Brooks without Morant since last year. He should get plenty of opportunities offensively. Tyus Jones looks fine. Plenty of turnover opportunities here for him to get some steals. He looks good. Dillon Brooks, 5,800 on FanDuel is insane. 7K on DraftKings, I think it's fine. You got 33 and a half minutes last game, which was the most minutes we've gotten all season from Brooks. He is going to chuck up shots. 34% usage rate overall without Morant on the floor, or sorry, alongside Jackson without Morant since last year. He's got a 34% usage rate, and he's averaged 1.25 fantasy points per minute. If you don't worry about Jackson, just take off Morant, take off Joval to get a larger sample size. The usage rate drops to 30%, and he's averaged about 1.05 DraftKings points per minute. But either way, going to get up a lot of shots, just a matter if they go in, basically. And also plenty of defensive stat upside for Dillon Brooks in this spot. Same goes for Jaron Jackson, who can pile up blocks. Desmond Bain has been a higher usage guy this year. Morant being out benefits him. He's also not just been a higher usage guy. He's been very good at scoring. So I think he looks good. People were asking about Steven Adams earlier at 4,300. The playing time is sort of all over the place, but he's 4,300 and probably plays around 24 minutes. So I think he looks okay. Even Brandon Clark, he closed last game in place of Adams. He had an abbreviated stretch in the first half because of foul trouble, but I think you're likely to get 18 to 20 minutes from Clark at 3,900 too. So this is just a team where you can get to a ton of guys.
How does the status of Oklahoma City affect what you want to do with Memphis?
It's not changing too much because I think it's just a situation where, there are some times where Oklahoma City is going to just score like 60 points and it doesn't matter what Memphis does. They're just going to get destroyed. But
it's so true.
I think that, it's a situation where maybe the Memphis starters don't play their full minutes, but they're just more productive in the minutes they do play. I also just think that there's massive defensive upside for these teams or for these guys, Jones, Brooks, Jackson. You could get a game like last time actually against Toronto where none of them really did that much offensively, but they just all contributed like 5 stocks a piece and got there. So I think there's a lot of ways for them to get here against this OKC team.
Brian McLaughlin wants to know, is Theo Macedon a good value play? That would be Maledon, and he is not even active today, so please don't put him in your lineup.
Yeah, Theo Maledon in the G League.
Sean Gadet with the super chat. What do you guys think about playing Jerome and Mann in the same lineup for a large field GPP? You can play any 2 combinations of people from basically any team in the same lineup in the same GPP. Maybe like you leave out Mitchell Robinson and Nerlens Noel.
No, I don't agree with that.
I mean, if we're talking about guys that are going to be like starting and playing 30 minutes, there's not a 2-man combination that I don't want.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
I don't mean like any two, like just in general. We start to get to like the center, backup center, point guard, backup point guard type stuff. But yeah, if Ty Jerome is starting, if anybody that starts can pretty much play together with any other individual one-man guy on a 5-game slate.
Yeah, if Ty Jerome starts, the answer is absolutely. If he doesn't start, the answer is still probably yes, because it's a 5-game slate and there are 3,600 and 3,200. If and that's with the way this team looks right now. If you had asked me this before SGA was rolled out, I would have said no because they didn't play a single minute together last game. But I assume they will play some alongside each other today, which makes it fine.
All right. That one took us a while. We're going to have to pick up the pace for these final 2 games, but I do need to talk about our sponsor, which is Yahoo. And we've got an offer for you. I assume you guys have heard it before, but wow. Before I do anything, 2,600 people, 460 likes. Hit that thumbs up, everybody. We just broke down arguably one of the harder things to do on a DFS slate for the first time in a while. We dove into it. So reward us with your likes. And then click the link in the description of this video and sign up at Yahoo if you are a new Yahoo sub, that is. And you can get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It doesn't really get any better than that. All you have to do is click that link in the description, deposit, and play. That's all you got to do. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest. We will then reach out to you via email with a coupon code. If you email support@awesemo.com, we could help get you set up a little bit faster. You could also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the description. That could help you enter any single contest that you want, including the $100,000 baller for the NFL. So we've got projections and tools that will help you specifically for Yahoo on the website to give you your best chance at winning. So go to awesemo.com or just click the link in the description to get yourself started. All right, Adam, 2 games to go. We got 15 minutes to do it. This shouldn't be all that bad. The Pistons, 12-point dogs in Phoenix, 207 total. Nothing too wild going on for Detroit. This is just normal old Pistons business. Killian Hayes is in. Kelly Olynyk is still out for the extended amount of time. Devin Booker out for the Suns, as is Frank Kaminsky and Abdel Nader, who probably would have benefited from that Booker news. Let's start with Detroit, where no one is owned more than 16%, which is Cade on FanDuel. I like that quite a bit as a GPP play at 6,900. It's basically just Saddiq Bey, Cade Cunningham, and Jeremy Grant on DraftKings. What do you like about the Pistons?
Nothing. Yeah, I mean, not much. I think that it's just a pretty unappealing team overall. Isaiah Stewart, probably the first guy that I would get to. 5K center. We know the minutes are there for him if he can stay out of foul trouble. It does help that this is a Phoenix team that is unlikely to go small. So if somehow this game is close at the end, you probably will have Stewart out there. Saddiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, Cade Cunningham, all fine in tournaments. They clearly still have ceilings, but I think that they are pretty much correctly priced as well. You don't really have the discount like you did on Cunningham for a lot of the year, and Grant is, I think, reasonably priced as well. So I don't really see much of anything I'm getting to on the Pistons.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you there. Other than I think 6,900 for Cade on FanDuel is still like a really good price in comparison to the 7,900 on DraftKings. But otherwise, like, I'm gonna play too much Saddiq Bey and his 44% true shooting for today. That's for sure. Darren Unger had the super chat. FanDuel cash. Man Johnson Brooks. I don't know which Johnson, but I assume it's Cameron Johnson. Or Simons, Jerome, and Dort. I think it's impossible to answer that until we get a Thunder starting lineup, but I would prefer the Simons, Jerome, Dort side of that one.
Which Johnson is that?
I don't know. Cam or Keldon.
Well, yeah.
And there might be more Johnsons to go around.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because, like, especially for cash, because typically there's going to be like one lineup or something, some slight variation off of one lineup. And it's kind of like, I can't imagine, I don't know the FanDuel pricing off the top of my head, but I can't imagine that you don't want Trey Mann. But
I would rather have Simons. Trey Mann's $1,000 more expensive.
Yeah, but still.
On FanDuel, than he's 4,600 on DraftKings, whereas Anthony Simons is only 5,200. I prefer Simons in that scenario.
Yeah, I just kind of assumed you would want both.
But well, yeah, there's also that. But if Jerome starts, I want Jerome over whatever Johnson that is.
Sure, but also like you're probably going to want Dylan Brooks and Simons, right? Like Dylan Brooks is 5,800.
Do I want Dylan Brooks more than Dort? I don't know.
I would.
31. Let me look at it.
Assuming they're the same. Assuming they're similarly.
Yeah, I've got Brooks by 2 fantasy points there. They're basically the same. It's close, but I think we just need more information.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, I agree with that. If Jerome is starting, I guess I would go with Simon's side. If he's not, I'd go with the other side.
Playing cash on FanDuel tonight are Giannis, Triple J, Man, and Brooks must plays. I don't know. Giannis, 100% yes. I don't know about the rest. Like, I'd have to run it. It's Man, probably. Brooks, probably. But, like, there's a lot of wiggle room with Brooks, I think. Triple J, I would say not, like, must. But Giannis is the only thing that I see there that I would guarantee is going to be there because he's 11K and the most owned guy on the slate. I'd have to run crunches to know, though. Tough questions for cash today. Let's go to Phoenix. No Booker. What does it mean for the Suns? Because we got Chris Paul pulling 30% ownership, and then we've got 4 other guys on DraftKings in the 20s. That would be DeAndre Ayton, Cam Johnson, Landry Shamet, Cam Payne. Something's got to break there, right?
Yeah, I think that this is one of the most interesting spots on the slate in terms of ownership and people's confidence in what's going to happen. So right now, ownership's actually pretty even across the board, at least for DraftKings, on Payne, Cam Johnson, and Landry Shamet. I think so. Last game with Booker out, you saw basically like 13 second half minutes for Landry Shamet. You got 7 for Cameron Payne, and you got, I think it was 14 for Cameron Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson started the second half.
Yeah, Johnson started the second half. Shamet closed the second half over Johnson.
Yeah,
this is just a really volatile spot. You shouldn't be super confident in a ton of minutes for any of these guys, but they all project better than normal because there is a better chance that they get a lot of minutes than there normally is. I'd set a rule to for sure not have more than 2 of them. Probably don't want more than 1 of them.
I wouldn't mind if it was Johnson and Shamet. I don't think that I would want, like, I think Payne is the most tenuous of that group.
I was going to say I wouldn't mind having 2 if one of them is Shamet. I think it's difficult for Payne and Johnson both to get there.
I agree.
At $1,000 more than Shamet.
Agreed. Yeah, Shamet 3,100 shooting guard small forward is going to work pretty much regardless here.
You could also, I guess, set like a max 2 of Paul, Payne, Johnson. Just thinking, like somebody mentioned in chat, is there a chance that the Suns sort of take it easy on Chris Paul since it's the Pistons? The answer is yes. I'm not projecting it that way, especially with Booker out, but there's a non-zero chance that Chris Paul runs a little bit shorter rotation than normal and Cameron Payne gets minutes that way while Cameron Johnson still gets his minutes. But I think overall, the point being, there's a lot of fluctuation. Like if this game's competitive, the closing lineup is very likely to be Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, one other guy, DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that for the most part, especially that we've gotten value opening up on OKC as well, I don't want a ton of lineups that have 2 of Payne, Johnson, and Shamet together.
I would be really surprised if Cam Payne would close in this situation.
Why?
Over Shamet or Johnson. I just think that makes for like a really difficult. I mean, maybe they just don't care because it's Detroit, but I just feel like that makes for a really weird defensive alignment.
Well, yeah, I was going to say they also the thing that makes Cameron Payne so difficult is he's by far the best fantasy producer out of those 3.
Right. Yeah.
But the Suns have been pretty hesitant to play him alongside Paul for large stretches this year. We have seen them doing it a little bit more recently. They did it a little bit last game, but I'm with you. I think he's the least likely of the 3 to be in the closing lineup. But
he's 4,700 on FanDuel. Thank God.
Yeah. He's also just like, he can get there in 20 minutes at 4,100. He's over a fantasy point per minute guy. So that's what makes it tough. But I agree that I think Johnson and Shamet, one of them is likely to be in the closing lineup over Payne.
Cam Johnson, by the way, 3,900 on FanDuel, just small forward eligible, projected for 24% ownership. Shamet, just shooting guard eligible, 3,800, projected for 5. I don't have to tell you which guy I prefer there. 5 to 1 ownership from Johnson to Shamet. That just shouldn't be. It's a scary spot. How do you
Shout
feel
out
about
to
this, Chris?
Rinpack for telling everyone that it's going to be a blowout, so I can get more Suns, I guess.
Perfect. Appreciate your Rinpack. What do you think of this 30+% ownership on Chris Paul today? Feels high.
Makes sense to me.
I don't know what to make here. Like, how big of a boost to usage did you give to Chris Paul?
I haven't projected the Suns yet, but
Okay. I haven't seen a lot in the ones that I've in my look-see through it all.
Say?
It hasn't really wiggled or moved. Assist rate went up.
So he's played without Booker on the floor this year in 195 minutes. He has a 21.9% usage rate. We need to go back to Memphis.
Kyle Anderson out.
Yeah. So everyone's asking about Aldama in chat. Now you can
The deli meat is in for 16.
Yeah. So now you can play him. There's more minutes available for him, for Conchar, which shouldn't matter. Brandon Clark looks a little bit better. Jaron Jackson looks a little bit better. But as far as Chris Paul goes, so 195 minutes this year without Booker, 21.9% usage rate. But in 4 total games since last year without Booker, he has a 30.2% usage rate and a 47.5% assist percentage.
I went to 23, just FYI.
Yeah. I mean, where's the usage going to go, though? Like, it's not going to any of these guys. Like, it has to go to Chris Paul.
I mean, campaign is going to get a healthy dose of it in that.
Well, yeah, but he's not going to be on the floor for a lot of Paul's minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. How much do you think Elfrid Payton plays too? Too many questions, man. We got a whole nother game to get to. There's too many question marks on this slate.
Based on their second half rotation last game, I think you're getting something like 12 to 14 minutes from Payton.
Okay.
Not a guarantee though, because you could just get more Cameron Payne minutes, but
all right. I don't want to say, are you done with Phoenix here? Because I don't think that we actually are done with Phoenix, but at the same time, I think we need to be done with Phoenix.
Yeah, I think Ayton's fine. Jay Crowder is fine. Mikal Bridges is fine. Any of the main Phoenix pieces are fine. I think the priorities are Ayton and Paul. And then you can use those guys as value. I just wouldn't want them in the same lineup. The Cameron Johnson, Payne, Shamet pieces.
Let's hit that like button one more time. We're at 620. 700 should be in our sight. San Antonio at Portland. Late night hammer. 4.5-point dogs for San Antonio. No Damian Lillard for Portland. Questionable tag on Norm Powell. Everybody is back for San Antonio. McDermott in. Vassell in. Shout out to whoever that dude was that was tweeting at me today. You're about to find out if you're right or wrong with Thad Young in the rotation. DeJounte Murray looks fantastic and to me is very clearly the best option on San Antonio. I have some interest in 6K Jakob Poeltl on FanDuel. Surely I'll get to a little bit of Keldon Johnson, but now that everybody's healthy, I think it's pretty easy to just not have a lot of San Antonio.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at as well. DeJounte Murray still looks good at 9,800. It's going to be easy to get to him. And there's just, Lillard's out, Morant's out. So there's just not really guys in that price range. So when you have salary there, he's just going to fit in as the highest projected guy. Jakob Poeltl, I think, still looks fine. Derek White looks okay, but I am a little concerned about his recent playing time. Coming back to earth, I should say. He's been playing a ton recently, but now you are bringing McDermott and Vassell back into the rotation. I think there's a chance that White goes back to playing 32, 33 minutes, which obviously makes him look a little bit less appealing. So in general, yeah, those guys coming back takes my interest away from a lot of the pieces on San Antonio. Murray and Poeltl are still the ones I'd be most interested in.
We are on the same page there. How many minutes does Thad Young play today?
0.
Okay. I hope that's the case. I want to gloat so bad.
Why? What?
It's not important. It's only important to me. Twitter beefs, man. They run the world.
I mean, is there an over under? Because it might not be 0. It might be 4.
Right. I'm also fine with 4.
Okay.
I want him to very clearly show up as the 11th priority for the San Antonio Spurs. That's totally fine by me. On the Portland side, we know what we're doing here. We're playing a lot of CJ McCollum because there's no Damian Lillard. We're playing a lot of Anthony Simons because there's no Damian Lillard. We're playing a decent amount of Yusuf Nurkic. That one I'm just scared about. And then if Norm Powell is in, I'm playing Norm Powell too in the mid 5s. I probably don't want to play all that much else from Portland as long as Powell is in.
Yeah, so those 4 all look good to me. I still think you can go to Covington, Nance, even if Powell's in.
Sure.
Just, you keep in mind that you shouldn't have a lot of confidence there and that there's a lot of safer value, but there's still a path to minutes for those guys. Nurkic, I don't think it's not even as much about increased production from Nurkic. It's that I think it's just more difficult for the Blazers to go small, especially if Powell's out, but with Little out and Dame out, I think it's just, a little bit more difficult. So I'm a little bit more confident in his playing time. CJ McCollum, 1.17 DraftKings points per minute in his games without Dame since last year. RJ Barrett out for the Knicks. Nerlens Noel out for the Knicks. So McCollum still looks really good. And then, I do think that
RJ Barrett out, Nerlens Noel out.
Yeah, just
buckle up. You said RJ Barrett out?
Yeah.
Well, I don't listen to you.
I don't blame you, but I did say it. So this is where I guess there's been, all the talk in chat about how many minutes Chris Paul is going to play. CJ McCollum, I think, plays more minutes than Chris Paul, which is why I give a slight edge to CJ McCollum here. I
hope he does.
There's people saying, Chris Paul's not going to play more than 28 minutes. That's an insane take.
Yeah.
But it's possible he doesn't, but you're way, way overestimating how many minutes you should be taking off guys in a 12-point spread. But CJ McCollum on average is just going to play more minutes than Paul anyway. And then this game is just a lot more likely to be competitive than the Phoenix game. So CJ McCollum ahead of Paul for me, but not as down on Paul as some people in chat. Anthony Simon still looks good. He's around a point per minute guy, even with McCollum on the floor when Lillard's off. So yeah, I mean, the Blazers in general just look good. San Antonio also one of the faster teams in the league.
That'll do it. Anything else you want to touch on?
Nope.
Don't go anywhere. Stay right on this stream. NBA Live Before Lock is coming up next. To the 2,860 of you that are here right now, thank you for joining us. Good luck on this one. We are in for a journey for this next hour. Have some fun. We're out of here.
All right. In the words of Samuel L. Jackson, hold on to your butts. Let's get going. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock, presented by Yahoo. I'm Eric Lindquist, once again, going to be leading you guys up to lock. I'm excited for this one. It is bonkers. Even so much has changed in the last hour since I was just on with Matt LaMarca for the Yahoo half-hour pregame show. My God, it's going to be wild. But hey, we got a guy that's going to do a great job of helping you. He's helped me all week. Looking forward to his analysis and his takes for today. That's Greg Ehrenberg at G Ehrenberg DFS on the Twitter sphere. Greg, how you doing, my guy?
Really poorly. I mean, if we're being honest here, I'm just trying to update. Every time I go through, I update stuff. It's another guy gets ruled out, and of course, this always has to happen. We even have a different the news has to be correlated to the start time of the show because it's a different start time today. We're starting at 6:30 as opposed to 6, and still everybody has to get ruled out at 6:29 instead of 5:59. It's really just a big old disaster over here.
It's huge. I mean, this is. at least we're not running the projections today. I can't even imagine what I'm going to be doing in that regard. I would just be losing my mind here. I'm updating my minutes. I'm just having the worst time ever. I mean, OKC, let's just start there because I think that was kind of the massive piece of news SGA ruled out that dropped during that Yahoo half-hour pregame show. And I've been working for the last hour trying to fix my minutes for all these guys. And I don't really know because we're missing that fifth guy. I'm pretty positive Tre Mann is going to be in the starting lineup. Luguentz Dort in the starting lineup. Darius Baisley, Jeremiah Robinson, Earl. Who do you believe is going to be that fifth starter for OKC today?
Well, it could really go a whole number of ways. I mean, especially because these, I'm just gonna go with Ty Jerome, right? He was my guy. He was somebody who I liked yesterday, and he was fine when he was on the court, but just only scored, didn't really put up any kind of peripheral stats beyond that. But they've started him in the past, so I'm going to guess him. We'll see. Very limited confidence. But I do think that either way, Ty Jerome is a pretty favorable looking play for me because even if he comes off the bench, I still have to imagine he's playing, 26, 28 minutes or something like that. And then, other guys who we would generally not really consider from OKC, they also have to be considered and play, particularly on DK with the $3,000 minimum salary.
Just got the starting lineup. Mann, Dort, Baisley, Robinson, Earl, and Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome in there. Oh, just free fire. Just fire it up. Yes. Look at him. So happy. So happy. Go. Yesterday, rostering him at 0.3% is going to be a lot more fun than rostering him today at 45, 50, 60%. But yeah, I'm going to have a ton of these guys. I don't see any way around it here on this slate to try to take shots, mix and match in tournaments, have a bunch of them. But we still have Simons. We still have so many great AK plays with Chris Paul, CJ McCollum. Down there, Jaron Jackson Jr. There's an unlimited amount of value. Giannis Antetokounmpo, I'm going to have just massive amounts of. This whole slate is just insane. So let's get to it. But first, hit that like button. Oh, my Lord. Jordan Lockhart. All this news is crazy in all caps. Yeah, this is bonkers. I'm stuck at work trying to catch up on all the news, and it's way too hard. Who do I play? Well, we're going to get to some of that here. And again, Greg's going to be somebody who does an amazing job of breaking it down. Also, Awesemo Plus tools. You've got those, my guy. There's no way. You could afford 50,000 subscriptions here at this point. But with Yahoo, you can get that one free month. One free month if you deposit $10 or more as a new Yahoo user. Get all of the things we have behind the paywall. NFL, NBA. That is all you need to do. $10 or more. Play in any paid contest. Done. You're equipped for 1 month. So let's get to it here at the guard position. I'm going to start here over on the DraftKings. Thank you so much, Jordan Klein, firing that up on the screen here at the end. It just felt like a nice segue to get out of the way because I don't know how much time we're going to have. There's so much to get to here, but at the guard spot, getting that confirmation that Ty Jerome's in, looks like Awesemo Projections already did a great job of encapsulating that. We got him projected around 23. I have him projected for 31 as soon as I put him in for 29 minutes. I mean, this is a pretty tough guy to get away from for me at 3,200 on this slate as well. But Anthony Simons, Ty Jerome, Tre Mann, kind of tell me some of your favorite value plays and how you're prioritizing them on this slate.
Yeah, well, the exact ones remains to be seen because I'm still trying to update everything. It would really help if this news didn't happen right away. But I mean, right off the bat, if I like Ty Jerome in a kind of sketchy role yesterday, I'm certainly going to like him in the starting lineup. I understand he's going to be really popular also. We have a somewhat fresh ownership projection. It's at least going to give us a good idea of what some of the recent news is going to make these guys look like. We have Ty Jerome projected for 38.6% ownership. I understand why. Tre Mann projected for 37.9% ownership. So these two guys are the two most popular value plays on the slate. We'll put Anthony Simons in a category of his own. So for DK purposes, I prefer Ty Jerome to Tre Mann. We've got Ty Jerome is a little bit cheaper. I have him projected for more fantasy points. Tre Mann started yesterday. He was chalk. Everybody was on Tre Mann yesterday and definitely disappointed. And I just think Ty Jerome's a better fantasy producer.
I don't mind that at all. Ty Jerome, just very confirmed. I mean, going back to his days in Virginia, and I was at that Final Four game that they never should have won. I was at the national title game. They probably shouldn't have won that against Texas Tech either. But a guy that gets into the league, thought he might have a role there, didn't ever really have a role. Now in OKC, can get there when he sees court time, and now in a starting lineup. This is a guy that you can't possibly get to enough of, I think, on this slate. 0.89 DraftKings points per minute. But then that's most of that alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in spots. And it's going to be a little bit higher. I really like Ty Jerome. There's really no amount of him you could get to that I would disagree with. But we got to mix and match some of these other guys. I mean, obviously Anthony Simons, the price has gone up, but it doesn't really matter. He's 4,900. He's projected for more than 30. That's another phenomenal piece of value. What are you kind of doing with him? How does he look compared to some of those other value pieces, considering he's up there at 4,900 as opposed to these other guys down near the floor?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm still going to find it difficult to get away from Anthony Simons. Obviously, earlier in the day, I thought like, oh, Anthony Simons is just going to be in all of my lineups because we're kind of hurting for value. And he's somebody that's really difficult to not project well. With Damian Lillard off the court this year, 0.97 fantasy points per minute for Anthony Simons. Then you have to figure he played 36 minutes last game. So even if you're being as conservative with Anthony Simons as possible, you're still going to project him for over 30 fantasy points at 4,900 on DK and a reasonable price on FanDuel. So still somebody who I'm going to be getting to a healthy amount of. The thing is, though, he was somebody this morning I thought I was going to have nearly 100% of my lineups. That's just not going to be the case now because there's so many value plays to choose from. So ultimately, when I have everything updated, rerun my lineups, I don't think I'm going to be that much different than the field on him, where he's right now 40% on DK. Over on FanDuel, he's projected for 29.6% ownership.
Yep. I'm the same way as you, where Simons was going to be near a lock button on this specific slate. Him and Cameron Payne going to be big parts of my portfolio. And now I don't even know how much Cameron Payne I can fit into my life here, considering he's not going to be somebody I'm projecting for nearly 30 minutes the way I will with Ty Jerome, the way that I will Trey Mann, the way that I will with all of these other OKC pieces. I guess the right way of putting this, just to round out the OKC conversation, is there anybody there, Paul Watson, perhaps, somebody that you might be rostering? Is there anybody who's not going to be starting that you might be giving shots to out of that entire grouping? Because Pokashevsky, we'll get to it forward. I don't necessarily think he's important, but Paul Watson, any interest there?
It depends what we mean by interest, right? So over the course of 150 lineups, do I think these guys are to have exposure to? Yes. Everybody is out almost for Oklahoma City. And I had tweeted this earlier. I don't even know if anybody responded to it or even saw what I had put up, but there's a bunch of guys that are out for OKC that shouldn't matter that do for this slate. Kenrich Williams, Theo Maledon, Aaron Wiggins are all out today. Vit Krejci, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I'm just pronouncing like David Krejci from the Boston Bruins, but Vit Krejci, he's also out today. So you're looking at a rotation now where it's going to be pretty thin, and everybody off the bench is cheap. All these guys are close to in price. So like Pokashevsky, he's somebody who's been an excellent fantasy producer in the past and is shown to have an upside. I think that he is viable. I think somebody like Paul Watson, less so, but whatever. If you were playing 150 lineups, you get him in like 5 to 10%. I don't have an issue with that. If you're somebody who's playing 1, 3, 10 lineups, no, you're not going to be playing these guys. But over the course of more lineups, yes, I think these guys are worth as dart throws and maybe as pivot plays off of some of the massively chalky OKC starters.
All right, you guys did an amazing job there in chat of getting that like count up before that deeper dive even started. Over 250 of you hitting the like button. Much appreciated. Let's get that thing up over 1,000. And no, I'm not going to unbutton my second button to do so. And no, for 2,000 likes, Greg is not going to take off his shirt, even though from what I recall, well, I'm not going to go there. Chat will go berserk if I talk about how fit Greg is. Let's move on to something else here at the guard position. Chris Paul, CJ McCollum. Do you have a preference between those two, considering they're both large parts of the slate as well?
Yeah, I prefer Chris Paul. I think looking at the two, and I remember this morning when I was talking to Adam actually preferred CJ McCollum of the two. The biggest concern I have with Chris Paul is just how many minutes are they going to need him to play against the Detroit Pistons. It's a game that could be relatively one-sided. The Suns are the biggest favorites on the slate. Last I checked, I assume nothing has really changed in that regard. Yeah, 12-point favorites. Next biggest favorite, Memphis at 11 points. But still, Chris Paul, we're taking Devin Booker off the court. And I just think Chris Paul's a better player and a better fantasy producer than CJ McCollum. So McCollum this year, without Damian Lillard on the court, sure, it's increased usage, increased playing time, 1.17 fantasy points per minute. If I'm not exactly right, I'm roundabout correct to remember off the top of my head. Just not the same kind of fantasy production we could expect from somebody like Chris Paul. And the other thing, too, is, McCollum, particularly on DraftKings, is really priced up, where he's somebody that I'm not getting to quite as much as the field at 8,500. That's a really steep price to pay for CJ McCollum. And then you have to ask, what's a fair price for him in this matchup? Maybe 8,800, but not too much different than what he's priced right now. He's already been priced up for the position he's in without Dame, in my opinion.
I probably am siding more with CJ McCollum. But it's so close for me. And I think I'm going to probably end up putting this in the wash and getting about the same amount of both, pretty close to it. For me, the guy that I think I'm just going up for a little bit more because I don't expect his ownership to really kind of compare. And we have an unlimited amount of value. So I want to go to an unlimited amount of ceiling. DeJounte Murray has proven to have that. And DeJounte Murray, I talked about on the Yahoo show, is just in a different caliber of player than what he was last season. 54 and a half plus over on DK in 3 of his last 4. Yeah, you get Doug McDermott back out there. I don't really care. Devin Vassell, don't really care. DeJounte Murray is the focal point of this basketball team, and he does everything. He's shooting for major volume. He's rebounding at an unbelievable clip. Double-digit rebounds in 3 of his last 4 as well here. Gets steals, blocks, does everything here. I want to pay for unlimited amounts of ceiling, so I'm going to get well over that 21.9% number over on DK. Are you with me?
I wasn't earlier, but now as I'm rerunning my lineups, I think I'm going to. I've been too light on DeJounte Murray for a while now. I keep expecting there to be, a little bit of a drop off. I was really high on Derek White entering the season, so I think I've been a little bit too high on Derek White, a little bit too low on DeJounte Murray. I kind of still like Derek White in this spot, more so on DK than FanDuel. But still looking at him as a potential pay-up option, DeJounte Murray, if this was a spot where we're really hurting for value, I don't think I would be playing him at 9,800. But now as I'm rerunning my lineups, it looks like I'm going to end up with him somewhere around 20% just because there is so much value available to us. I'm finding it a lot easier to get to Giannis now than I thought it was going to be early in the day. So that is still my number one priority to make the space to pay up for. But yeah, DeJounte Murray is going to be in my lineups more than he's been at any other point this season.
Okay, well, that's good to hear because that's the guy that I'm kind of hitching my wagon to and kind of in tournaments. Again, I don't know what the cash game build optimally would look like. All I know is I want to pay up for ceiling. I want to pay up for upside. And I want to get off of as much of the chalk in that. CJ McCollum and Chris Paul, it's not like I'm going to get to 0 of them. I'm going to get to about the field of them. But it's so easy for me to be able to get DeJounte Murray in now. You should all be trying to try to find some areas to get a little bit different. I think Julius Randle will talk about as well. Another piece up at above 9K, 9,500 over on DK that we can pay up for his kind of a ceiling here too. But there's so much value. It's the name of the game today. It's stars and scrubsy. All right. Rest of the guard position here. We've got a number of plays that are still popping here. Even in our last run here, we're getting to guys like Derrick Rose, Alec Burks here now in the aftermath of getting the confirmation. RJ Barrett's out, Nerlens Noel out as well here for the Knicks. How are you handling that situation?
Yeah, so when it comes with the Knicks and the guards, once again, I thought if we saw some of these guys out, I thought it was going to be a situation where all of a sudden I would want to get to a whole bunch of these Knicks guys. But now in reality, there's all this other value that kind of limits the amount that I'm getting to the Knicks. So once again, just re-looking at some of the Knicks guys individually, I still think that Alec Burks has kind of been priced up. I know Alec Burks was really good the other day, but are you really that interested in Alec Burks at what his current price point is now relative to the other plays on the slate? Obviously the upside's there because we just saw it last game, but I don't think he's going to be a high priority for me now that the salary's gone up.
I'm going to have almost none again. I had almost none the other night. I went to Derrick Rose. I'm going to still get to Derrick Rose. It's Tibbs' boy. He's still under 5K. Alec Burks, kind of in no man's land. You need 40 plus now at this number. And I think we can find 40 plus. This is kind of maybe an unrealistic thing to say, but we can for sure see 30 plus out of the likes of maybe Man, Ty Jerome, a number of these cheap guys down here at the bottom underneath 3K that allows for me, even for a floor game for Giannis, even a floor game for DeJounte Murray at his current pace or his current rate of play, I think is still going to be better than me trying to isolate some kind of an upside. I'm not going to play 0%, but he's going to be a large fade. I'm well under the field on Alec Burks for the second straight time. He's probably my most terrifying fade here, considering we haven't projected for more than 40 minutes. Maybe I need to reconsider a little bit here, but I've got 8% in my last run, and I don't know if anything's going to change for me over on DK for that. Oh, excuse me, over on FanDuel. It makes sense. We have the multi-positional eligibility again, but 7K there. I don't think he's going to be as popular as that 20% that we have. So maybe it's just for me saying, you know what, 7K is way too much for me to be playing over there. And, I'm going to be well under that number as well. I'm with you. Alec Burks going to be a larger fade for me on this slate, just a no man's land price tag. But anything else for you here on guard? Because we've got just So many options available to us. Gary Trent's ruled in. I thought maybe that would matter. It really doesn't matter to me as much anymore. I feel like Toronto just kind of forgotten about here for the most part. Maybe I need to reconsider a little bit of Fred VanVleet's ceiling, but 8,900 is just a gigantic tag for him, and I can get to DeJounte Murray easily. Is there something that you're kind of extracting out of guard that we haven't talked about yet?
All right. So we've got a fresh ownership projection, and I'm looking through that right now. And we do have Alec Burks projected for pretty healthy 24% ownership right now on DraftKings at a 6,500 price tag. I haven't projected for fantasy points in the low 30s. Is he problematic to roster? No, but I don't think he should be quite 24% owned. But then looking at some of the other guys on the Knicks, and let's see, other guards, Derrick Rose, 22%. I'd rather play him than Alec Burks. Where's Quickly? All right, so I'm going to gravitate towards Quickly now based on this latest ownership run. We've got Quickly projected for 7% ownership at 5,000. Over on FanDuel, he's only 4,100. He's projected for 15.7% ownership. Look at the minutes allocation for the Knicks last game. And while it was Alec Burks that had the biggest fantasy game, and Derrick Rose was also a really good contrarian play that put up value, Emmanuel Quickly played 38 minutes. And in those minutes, he was fine. He scored, it was right around 26 fantasy points. But that kind of workload, if you're going to get 38 minutes again at low ownership, that's a really good way, in my opinion, to get some leverage off the field, because I think Quickly is just as good, if not better, than guys like Derrick Rose and Alec Burks. He just didn't play as well last game, so he's getting overlooked a little bit.
Absolutely. Alec Burks over on our sponsor, Yahoo. That's kind of the spot where it's hard for me to get away from him. He's $17, identical tag as Derrick Rose. So I will say that I wanted to round out the loop on him as well. For our sponsor, I think he's just a really good play over there. That's probably the one place I'm going to just kind of lock him in and live to tell the tale. So I won't have zero on this slate, but that's just kind of what I'm planning on. Jaylen Brown ruled out for Friday. I don't care. Why are we getting that? That's frustrating. Whatever. What's not frustrating? NBA player rankings, which Jordan Klein, lovely producer there behind the screen, he's got pulled up for you. Take advantage of that. Go check that out over here on the site, and check out everything on our site right now for $29.95 for the weekly pass. That is everything. That's the premium Discord, lineup builder, boom bust tool, which we're going to be using all the time, referring to all the time on these shows. I'm waiting for everything to update. So many moving parts. Our guys behind the scenes, that thing has been updating like every 45 seconds. Can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody behind the scenes here at Awesemo doing such an amazing job. Best in the industry at keeping everything updated constantly. It makes our lives so much easier here, and it will make yours easier as a player. So take advantage of that offer right now, $29.95. Use promo code NBA Live for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum, or $16.95 for the weekly package, $4.95 for the base weekly express package, which will still give you NBA Showdown and single game contests. So check that out as well. Stop guessing, start winning. Join us over here because it's a lot of fun to win money. And even a dunce like me, yes, a dunce like me, can win money using these tools. So I promise that you can too. Let's keep it going here at the guard position and kind of round this puppy out. We have tons of super chats to get to. I will get to all of them, I promise. Just want to get the most updated information, be able to relevantly tell you what I'm looking at for my lineups, what Greg's looking at for his lineups. It's taking a little bit extra here today, especially playing three sites. It's absolute Wild West over here. But anything else for you at guard? Somebody that you might be higher or lower on? Anything you want to touch on that we haven't talked about yet?
Quickly is going to be the big one for me. Just looking through, particularly on FanDuel, because by the way, I was trying to today. I was like, this is a good 5-game slate. There isn't too much going on. I'm going to play on FanDuel and DraftKings today. And of course, it was like, oh, this isn't happening. So I'm only going to be playing on FanDuel now, but I still have my lineups running for both just so I know where I would be at. But yeah, I think Quickly is the one that really stands out the most to me relative to his ownership and what we saw from him last game.
Okay. That's good loop to close there. 4,100 for him. Kind of a nice tag to be getting to there. I'm right around 20% of him over on that side as well. So I'm in agreement that Emmanuel Quickly is just fine by me. Again, a 7K Alec Burks, just not going to happen for me over there. I'm rerunning everything, and it doesn't look like a guy I'm going to get to a whole heck of a lot of. So if you're playing the Fade Eric game, just play all the Alec Burks. Have fun. All right. Super chat time. We'll do that. We'll jump over to forward. We'll keep this train moving. Noah, Dakumas. Thank you so much. I knew you would know. FanDuel GPP, small forward, Cam Johnson or Baisley, and then center, Randall or Vooch on FanDuel. Which ones do you prefer?
No, I have not played Darius Baisley really at all this year, and I don't really like him that much as a real life player. But for today, So many guys are out for Oklahoma City. It's hard to get away from Baisley just with that in mind. And then also at the high end, there's enough value where it's easy enough to get to Giannis. So Giannis and Baisley is my preferred combination.
All right. Darren Unger, FanDuel, Nurkic, Triple J, or Ayton and Brooks.
All right. DeJounte Murray.
Never mind.
I'm looking at the
Nurkic
wrong
and
one.
Triple J or Ayton and Brooks. Darren Unger for FanDuel.
Was it a cash or a GPP lineup? Did he say?
He just said FanDuel. So I think for me, regardless of it, I'm going to go Ayton Brooks simply because I like getting away from the Nurkic chalk. We got to find some ways to get different. And Ayton, what is his ownership currently here on FanDuel? 15.9% for him as opposed to Nurkic at 32.4%. That's a quick way to maybe get a little bit of ownership out of your lineup. So I think just even looking at that, Brooks and Triple J both going to be super popular. So 42.4%. I just think that Nurkic Triple J is super popular. If you're playing cash, that's the combination. But for tournaments, Ayton Brooks for me.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I've been trying to reduce the ownership I have to Jaron Jackson Jr. just because it's so much ownership for him. Yeah. I love Triple J. I think he's such a high upside player. I've been playing him a bunch this year on slates where he isn't picking up ownership. But he's so popular now, and we know about his downside, his ability to potentially get in foul trouble. And that absolutely scares me shitless today, is that it's going to be this slate with Jaron Jackson. The 6,900 price tag for him on FanDuel, considering his current role, is ridiculous. He should be like $1,000 more expensive. But I have nightmares about Jaron Jackson Jr. going out and picking up 3 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the game.
He plays Bobby Boucher basketball. Slap hands. A little bit of that from Bobby Boucher. Again, another deep cut. Adam Sandler, Waterboy. Everybody.
Dude, that's not a Bobby Boucher is not a deep cut.
Yes, I would do that for you, Coach. All right, Sam, $4.99. As far as the value players, would you put them in a group and limit the amount you get in each lineup? And what would that limit be? Thanks in advance. I would do something similar if I had more time here to adjust for everything on the fly. Again, I'm playing 3 sites. I'm kind of limiting my exposure on FanDuel. I'm lowering that here as we go. Same thing I did yesterday. This is just, maybe I should just add lineups when I want to over on FanDuel, because it just seems like I always it's the easiest to be able to go withdraw out of. So that's what happens for me. But do you do anything with groups? Because I'm just not going to be doing anything of the sort today. Plus, all the OKC value is so cheap. I don't mind any kind of overlap whatsoever.
I am not. If I had more time, maybe I would, but I don't really think it's that necessary for a 5-game slate. I'll make rules sometimes on bigger slates where, maybe just totally random situation. But for tomorrow, right? Anthony Davis is listed as questionable. Dwight Howard starting. Maybe a situation where we would see Anthony Davis ruled out and be like, hey, Dwight Howard looks good. Maybe DeAndre Jordan would be viable. And for that, I'd set a rule. This isn't a group, but I would set a rule to not play Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan in the same lineup if both of them were to look like good value plays. For a 5-game slate, I don't want to be too restrictive.
Same. Joseph C., $1.99. No comment. Much appreciated. That's the easiest super chat ever. We can't tell you how much we appreciate that. We've just been super chat haven the last 2 days. We really appreciate you guys. Ben Manning in a DKGPP, Greg, Randall Brooks or Giannis Baisley. He already has Jerome Dort. That doesn't matter to me because you can have as many of these OKC guys as you want together. But Randall Brooks or Giannis Baisley?
That isn't this the one we just answered?
Nope, it's Ben Manning. Different one.
We definitely got one
DK.
with I just deja vu. I feel like we definitely answered some of this. Giannis and Baisley, though.
Okay, cool. Weatherman 7, DKGPP, DeJounte Murray and Siakam, or Chris Paul and Randall. I'm scared of the blowout risk for Paul. We're going to be worried about a lot of blowout risk in a lot of spots. You're not going to roster anybody on this slate if you're worried about blowouts too much. But I love DeJounte Murray. I love Randall because of the position that he's at. But what are you looking at here in this 2v2?
That is Chris Paul and Randall for me. I really like Chris Paul a lot today.
All right. Fire that one up. And Jordan Lockhart, y'all just give out great energy, and I love it and appreciate everything you all do. Trust us. We appreciate you more. You're the man. Just keep it rolling. And Weatherman 7, one more time. Add on Giannis and Burks to that too. I don't know how to add that on, but you did just answer that. I didn't look at the DK GPP. I'm wrong again. Carlos Manzo. Greg wins again here. I didn't hear that part of it. I just read the super chats in order. Weatherman 7, add on Giannis and Burks to that too. So I don't know how to, but Hey, I love Giannis. We're both a little bit lower on Burks. I think that's the quickest way to kind of surmise that. Anything else to add to those super chats? Oh shit, we got major news. Knicks will start quickly. So there you go. Burks, quickly, Fournier, Randall, Robinson confirmed.
They couldn't have. I mean, we were going to find that out eventually anyway. That game starts in not too long for now. But yeah, a little bit of a bummer because I was already super high on Emmanuel quickly, and now just all right, cool. And everybody else gets to roster with me. That should be illegal. I should be the only one allowed to play him now, but guess not.
Oh man, as if we just needed to lock him in even more. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Oh, Miami Mike 305 with the $5 Jigsaw super chat. Hi, Eric. I want to play a little game. You've been living your life in sadness. You're just a terrible DFS down. Put your hand in the box. Something like that. That was pretty good, right?
It also, that wasn't you doing a character. That's just who you actually are. Those are your thoughts every morning when you look in the mirror.
You're a useless stain on the Awesemo name. You should be taken out to pasture and just beaten by YouTube chat.
These are absolutely things that have been said to you by your wife before.
Eric, take out the trash or I'll kill you. I swear to God, if you leave one more plate in the sink. That's all I got. That was good. That was a good bit. Thank you so much, Miami Mike. Now I've added something here to it. Creepy AF avatar, but now it's turned fun for me and we can all have fun. All right, back to some NBA. Let's go to the forward position. We got 31 minutes to go, plenty of time. And of course, I know a lot of you might be dipping out to go check out the NFL show. Why don't you just pull out 2 devices? Have your phone, have your computer, have the guys starting the NFL Live Before Lock show starting up at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. That's Lofty, the boss man, Alex Baker, and Ben Rasa leading you up to lock of the glorious football game we have in store. Dallas and New Orleans, bet the under, just throwing that out there. I'm loving Showdown. And you guys should be checking out that content starting up at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. Really, really going to be a fun slate to play Showdown. So check it out. All right, let's get over to the forward position. We talked about Triple J a little bit. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let's just start with him. I find it impossible not to get way over the field on him, considering the crazy amount of value. $12K is no prohibitive tag to me. Even the $58 we're looking at on Yahoo, I'm getting to tons of him. A nearly lock button play for me today. What are you doing with Giannis specifically?
Really easy to get to. He's in more than half my lineups. I don't even know what else to add to it. It's not even, he's so expensive on DraftKings. It's not like I look at him and say like, oh, I have him projected for 70 fantasy points. He's the best points per dollar play on the slate. It's really similar to how you and I viewed him yesterday. And I think we kind of got lucky in this sense that we got such a big fantasy game out of him, because it's not like you or I thought he was going to score 70. It was just, there was so much value on the slate. He was easy to get to, and he happened to have a big game. I think today he could just as easily go out and score 55 or 60 fantasy points and land in optimal lineups anyway, because there's so much value on the slate. The raw points at the top end matter more than the actual points per dollar. So he's expensive, but he's not difficult to get to. So I'm overweight.
Oh no, we got Canto Salvo, $4.99. Give me a Ben Stiller dodgeball impression when you get a minute. Let's see. We should mate. Date. We should date sometime. A little bit of that. How about that? No,
I'm trying to remember.
Evan Chuck Norris. A little bit of that.
That actually sounded pretty good.
Thank you. I'm getting confirmation from Jordan Klein that makes me happy. No one makes me bleed my own blood. All right, that's all I got for you. I don't know how you.
I like how you move your. I like how you move your shoulders when you do it, because
no one makes me bleed my own blood.
It's like you're dodging dodgeballs.
I'm gonna come for you. What is it? Average Joe's. Jordan really liked that bit. Man,
did he? I don't have So I'm also trying. This is so hard to multi-manage different things because Eric is crushing right now, and it's very funny. And then I'm also trying to update all my lineups right now for the nonstop news and the updated ownership. And it's a lot going on. It's a little much.
You're going down the floor. All right. Tyler Hitchcock. That might be one of my better ones. I'm not even going to lie. And that came out of nowhere. FanDuel only for Tyler Hitchcock. $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Okay to play Simons, Tyus, and Jerome in the same lineup? Of course. Keep up the work, guys. Greg doesn't seem to have a unique shirt tonight. Greg, you go from Nirvana, from Lithium to... Oh, he was slow rolling. Absolute slow roll. What in the world?
I only have cool shirts.
That is so sick. Man, that was the best super chat simply because of that, dude. Just Greg Ehrenberg's shirt game is unbeatable. Probably my favorite part about working here. Neil Orfield, do it. No, seriously. There you go. One more. Let's get to it. You get the boss man at Ben and Lofty tonight. Should be a great one. That is going to be a really fun one. We should be checking that NFL Live Before Lock show. Again, 2 devices. Makes your life easier. You can get the information for both. And you want to be watching both of us simultaneously because that's a lot of fun at once. Let's keep going to the forward position. So many other guys to talk about. JJJ, we covered that. Alec Burks covered that. Cameron Johnson in this entire Suns situation at forward. You have no Devin Booker there. We've touched on all of the major injury situations here, just about everywhere else. Cameron Johnson, Landry Shamet. Thought I was going to play a lot of them coming into this slate. Not getting to a lot of them now. How about yourself?
Yeah, not really all that much. I kind of feel like I'm gonna bump Cameron Payne right now because there was a point earlier in the day where it looked like he was going to be a chalk play, and I was kind of wrestling with it. What are we going to really expect from Cameron Payne here? He had some really good outings last year when Chris Paul and/or Devin Booker were out, and now we just have so much value that's opened up on the slate. I kind of feel like he's starting to get slept on a little bit. So most recent run of ownership now. We've got Cam Payne projected for 12% ownership over on FanDuel. DK is projected for 19% ownership. It's a little low in my opinion, don't you think, at this point?
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to figure out what Phoenix Suns so Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. That's kind of 2 no-brainers for me, where I think you should be getting to both of them. I like DeAndre Ayton a lot because he lowers the ownership of my lineups and he's less chalky than Yusuf Nurkic. Another guy, Nurkic, Burks. If you're playing the fade Eric Lindquist game at home, fire those up. That's the best way to do it. But Cameron Payne, I've historically had a really good rapport with him. I had a big playoff day last year calling Cameron Payne, and I know that it helped a lot of subs win a lot of money just because I had question marks about Chris Paul's health. Cameron Payne been playing alongside Chris Paul. I think that's the big positive for it. The negative is 4,100. He's still going to be shotting dependent. And I still think that there's a really low floor if there's not a blowout here. So I'm basically boosting Cameron Payne. I have like 2 groups built today. One is just to make sure that I don't get to more than 5 OKC players. So I'm just like lowering them down and kind of capping it at 3 and mixing and matching a lot of those guys. The second one I have is to not have nearly as much Chris Paul show up in lineups alongside Cameron Payne, even though they've been sharing the floor a little bit next to each other. I think it raises Cameron Payne's floor. But I don't care about floor on this slate. I care about ceiling because you need to be drilling so many of these ceilings. You need to be having a ton of ceiling performances in your lineup. So for me, Cameron Payne, I'm a little bit below the field, but I get your logic and where you're coming from.
Yeah, I just because I reran my lineups constantly. All I've been doing since we started here is listen to Eric's jokes, listen to Eric's impressions, rerun lineups. Oh, new update, rerun lineups. So ownership, somebody else go rerun lineups. And I just realized that Cameron Payne was getting lost in the shuffle for me. I was looking, I was like, oh, I only have 8% Cameron Payne on FanDuel. I want to correct that. So I'm getting to more of him now. Is he, he's not close to being one of my most rostered players at point guard. And somebody said before that I already said I like Chris Paul. Yeah, you can like Chris Paul and Cameron Payne today. I don't have any kind of issue with that. But yeah, there's so many guards I like now. And how do I roster all of them in no other position?
Capitalism reimagined. Oh no, everybody's fading me. I'm so sad. I keep winning, so I don't really give a shit. Cool. $10 from Miami Mike 305. $10 towards Greg's haircut. Greg Ehrenberg, you have lovely hair. It looks like you used shampoo when you woke up this morning. Your conditioner is very high quality.
Yeah.
Look at that. Happy Hanukkah.
By the way, I just don't have enough time to go anywhere or do anything. I do 8 million shows a day. I've got meetings all day. Like when am I? I have to leave my house for like 30 minutes to go downtown to get my haircut. It's never gonna happen.
I always think I'm working hard. Before I went on to like a 2-week sabbatical, I felt like I was working very hard. But then last night we're hanging out. Greg Ehrenberg hung out on Zoom afterwards, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I did this today. Oh, I'm running this. I'm running that. Got this done." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm actually a piece of shit." So that's cool to know. But I'm trying my best here. So shout out Greg Ehrenberg. Been on a lot of shows with him. Going to be on a show again tomorrow with him. We're having a lot of fun on this Live Before Lock show. So hit a like button for Greg Ehrenberg, most hottest hitting safety in the league. That's Greg Ehrenberg for you. Let's party. Rest of the forward position. Okay. This is going to be a little bit hairy because there are some guys that I thought
nice
that I was
pun.
going to need. What?
That's a nice pun. I said it's going to be hairy.
God, You know what? It just happens naturally. I am averaging 1.5 pauses per minute, and that's a high rate. You should probably roster that in DFS. But Darius Baisley, you talked about him a little bit earlier. I'm a mark for this dude, and I've been trying to make him a thing, but now he's going to be popular. But he's not as popular as I expected here, especially over on FanDuel at 4,500. I'm making a large stand for Darius Baisley and Lou Dort here at the forward positions on that site. Help me. How much is too much?
For
Darius Baisley specifically.
Okay.
So let's start with him.
Okay. So because you mentioned Darius Baisley and Lou Dort there. So Baisley, let's see, where is his current ownership at now? So Baisley is now at, it would help if I spelled this. How often do you spell players' names wrong? And when you're searching for their ownership and find out that's
what I do is I can say their names clearly when I'm not looking at it. And as soon as I look at it, I apparently fumble words and people make fun of me. That's what I've learned about myself.
His ownership is too low. And once again, we were talking about Baisley before. I'm not a massive fan of Darius Baisley. He has not had very many good fantasy games this year. But look at the players who are out for OKC. Kenrich Williams, Theo Maledon, Aaron Wiggins, Josh Giddey, Derek Favors, SGA, Vit Krejci. Somebody has to play minutes and put up production. They're not gonna lose to Memphis 110-0. They're gonna score at least 70, 80 points in a worst case scenario. And I think Baisley is going to be the guy that is responsible for a lot of that. I have him projected for the second most fantasy points on this team behind Lou Dort and then Ty Jerome third. So I certainly think it makes a whole lot of sense to get to Darius Baisley today, even if I don't like him.
Boob, I've probably had enough of you. You're always in chat. You're always trolling. And you know what? It's funny sometimes, but you just got to go now. Have a great life. We'll see you later. You'll come up with some other account and hit the dislike button. I really don't give a crap anymore. Darren Anderson, $1.99. Lower expectations. Isaiah Roby, DK, GBP, or my wife. Well, that's very nice. It's actually just funny to read. Probably Isaiah Roby because she seems like a nice lady.
I mean, I don't know his wife. Darren, what is she making for dinner? I mean, we have to figure out something here. I mean, here's the thing though. I have very low expectations for Isaiah Roby. Darren appears to be at odds with his wife right now. Isaiah Roby, final answer.
Isaiah Roby, final answer. Yeah, best of luck to you. Couples therapy, enjoy. Miami Mike 305, $20 super chat. The guy just keeps going up in increments. $5, $10. JK, Eric, and Greg, my face, appreciate you. There it is. I love you. I love this. This is a fun game. You want to play a little game? DFS. Let's party. Time to go. I think I have Jordan Klein beside himself today. I don't think he knows what to do. Are you brushing your teeth? What are you doing right now? Oh, you're chewing on gum. Okay. That's what it was. It looked like you had a toothbrush there for a second. That would have been a weird segue, but the rest of the forward position, we've got 19 minutes. You've got plenty of time. No news is going to break here at this point in time. Fingers crossed, of course, but I'm looking at any other forward plays that I'm on a little bit higher than the field. Mikal Bridges, I'm lower than the 12% over on FanDuel here, going back and forth between the sites because I don't know what else to do here. Dylan Brooks, somebody that I'm right at the field at the 32.6% there. DeMar DeRozan, I just think it's the aftermath of the slate. I mean, yeah, he's got a little bit of a ceiling there, but 8,400 still falling by the wayside for me. Are you extracting anything from Chicago from this entire situation, specifically DeMar DeRozan?
Not really. I mean, I have some of DeMar DeRozan on FanDuel where he's shooting guard and small forward eligibility 8,400, but it's a fairly low priority play. Other guys from Chicago, a little bit of Zach LaVine. Once again, I mean, I'm talking about guys that I have like 10% exposure to over the course of 150 lineups. So not really. There's nothing here that's a priority for me. DeRozan is the one I have the most exposure to, but once again, it's a lot of guys I'm getting to ahead of him.
I'm just pulling out the ban hammer now. It's ban hammer time, baby. If you're going to come at it, you better come at the king. You best not miss. I want some. Go ahead and smack talk me. You have 5 minutes of immunity. Say everything you want about me in 5 minutes. And after that, if you're firing off stuff to just take away from the show, you're gone. Bye. See ya. So 5 minutes, go. 4:17 here on the West Coast. It's enacted. So you have 5 minutes, basically. What's that movie? The Purge, where there's no laws for like a day or whatever. That's what we've got for 5 minutes. So enjoy that. Fire it up. Wait, what just happened? Oh,
Giannis
God.
is out. What?
This slate is hilarious.
By the way, Highly, number one, screw everything. What's the, what are we even doing here? But
what is the point of life? Honestly, what in the world is going on?
By the way, right now, bet the Raptors, bet player. I'm just Raptors bets right now. Raptors plus 4.5.
Okay, this is 17 minutes before the lock of this game. How much Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton can we possibly get into our lineups? We're about to find out because I'm about to play a ton. Bobby Portis, a priority as well. Those three guys were guys that I didn't even have a share. Let me see. I had 2% Jrue Holiday. I had on DK 4% Chris Middleton. That's exciting. In my 60 lineups, we have, oh my God. I'm going to play as much of them as I humanly possibly can. How about you?
All right. I've got my bets in on the Raptors. So
Good.
There we go.
Good job.
So there we go. So I'm happy. I've got Raptors plus 4.5.
Everybody else go and bet that immediately. Greg is the best at doing it. Bet Raptors immediately because I don't think DK, especially because it's not news that he's out. It's news that he's not starting here. And so I don't know if they're going to have just the news hit the wire for sports books like, oh, Giannis is out the way that it normally would. So I'm just going to go be under the assumption that he's out. I'm just taking him out of everything, and you should too.
Yep, that's we're taking him out, and I'm assuming he doesn't play today. And we've seen this a lot of times with the Milwaukee Bucks, where we've had games where Giannis is active, Middleton's active. If they don't start, they typically don't play, unless this is a thing where he really has to take a shit. He's not playing today. And the game starts 7:30, 16 minutes. I do not anticipate that Giannis is playing today.
Ryan Durant, keep up the great work, Eric. One of the nicest guys I met in Miami. Great, Greg. Appreciate the expert analysis as always. Yeah, Miami was great. Got to hang out with Rinpack and a bunch of the guys over there. Ryan, you're good people. Really appreciate you too. Let's keep it rolling here. Eric, if you like movies and haven't seen The Ninth Gate, Johnny Drop, best movie. Oh, okay. I'll check that out here as well. Portis, Holiday, Middleton, all of them. Just play tons of them here. I went from I had 82% Giannis over on DK today. I'm going to have 0. That's going to be
I would recommend not playing somebody who I don't think is going to play.
Oh, really, Greg? Really?
Yeah.
Is that where we're at?
I would. Listen, I'm here to give advice. All right. So other players are on. I have the on-off court numbers pulled up here for Milwaukee now. Jrue Holiday this year, 45.26 DraftKings points per 36 minutes when Giannis is off the court. We've got Chris Middleton scoring 46.89, Bobby Portis 38.53. Play these guys. And this is, what's annoying about this slate now? Everybody's in play. This entire stupid slate, everybody's a value.
Yeah, except for Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham, confirmed, not a value.
Yeah, I'm not playing Cade Cunningham today.
I'm not playing Cunningham. And I mean, I guess we've been on the side where I just was playing 100% Cade Cunningham, and now I'm playing legitimately 0%. Well, I won't have 0%. I'll have maybe 2, but I would be surprised if I got to any at this point, especially with the things that I just did to get myself to more Jrue Holiday, more Chris Middleton. My God, this slate is out of its mind. All right, I'm just going to keep updating my stuff. I have Jrue Holiday now projected taking him out there. Took him from 34 to 36 minutes. I'm getting to 44 fantasy points for Jrue Holiday, 46 for Chris Middleton, roughly on those. I'm waiting to see what Awesemo ends up updating for their stuff. Pat Connaughton going to be somebody that I'm going to be getting to actually in a few lineups here. 5,100 makes it inflated enough where it's not like I'm going to get to him in 10% even, but just a smattering of lineups. But it is primarily concentrated between Jrue, Middleton, and Portis for me. I have a lot of them. Grayson Allen, nope, I'm not going to get to much of him at 4,500. I thought maybe he'd be another piece as I'm updating 6% of him, so that's fine. This is just madness. Jordan Nwora, do you have any interest in him considering, did we get that starting lineup?
No, I assume the starting lineup is going to be Holiday, Middleton, Portis. Okay, so I know those three. Grayson Allen, and I think Connaughton starts.
Holiday, Allen, Middleton, Connaughton, Portis. Look at you. You're 2 for 2 today, baby. That is smashing it out of the. I love when the news just pops up while we're talking here. But yes, Pat Connaughton in that starting lineup. I have no Giannis. Just take him out. That's confirming it for me. I have 0%, and you should too.
And also, I have to mention this. Raptors guys, I'm boosting them as well. It's hard to put an actual number on it, but No Giannis on the court, much worse defense for the Milwaukee Bucks. Benefits the Toronto Raptors. It's something that's really hard to project for because it's just the way projections work in terms of matchups against individual teams. I'm giving everybody on the Raptors a little bit of extra fantasy points, just not even like in a mathematical way. We've got 12 minutes until lock, until this game starts. Just like, hey, everybody, you get a couple extra, you get an extra fantasy point here. You get a fantasy point. It's like the Oprah. It's like the Oprah. Yeah, the Oprah gift. Everybody gets fantasy points here because I just want to get to more of them, and I don't have time to figure out a better way to do this. 12 minutes until lock.
You know what I did is I got out of almost all of my FanDuel lineups so I can just update DK because that can't go anywhere. I don't have the ability to just withdraw everything there. So I'm playing 2 sites now today. I'm going Yahoo, DraftKings. It was just too much to update. I mean, you could probably just hit the jam button on FanDuel and probably live to tell the tale if you had Holiday, Middleton, Portis in that regard. But as it stands now, I did go under the assumption that Connaughton was going to be starting. He is starting here. Therefore, I'm probably going to get to maybe even a little bit more than the 8-10% I was looking at getting there before. Grayson Allen, still not somebody that's going to be a priority for me. I'm very curious where we end up projecting him at because Grayson Allen doesn't get a huge bump for me here in this spot, but everybody should get a huge bump, I guess, from Milwaukee. So I'm going to probably have to tweak his usage here even a little bit more. Giannis officially ruled out for Thursday. This has truly been the craziest show, but you should all be loving this. Normally, the main reason is you should be adding as many lineups as possible. I'm on a show, so I'm just updating all of my stuff. Normally, I would be trying to get as much action in as possible because there's no way with 10 minutes before, 11 minutes before, that people are going to have enough of Chris Middleton, enough of Drew Holiday, enough of this Bucks situation compared to what they should have if this news had broken 30 minutes earlier. I suggest if you're not on a show, which is everybody else here doing that, well, Greg, you're stuck with me.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I've got my updates in here, and my 3 most. But how quickly time changed. My 3 most rostered players now are Middleton, Portis, and Holiday. Wasn't playing them. Was barely playing them 3 minutes ago. Slate starts in 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the slate starts. I didn't have exposure basically to my 3 most rostered players.
I love NBA DFS. This is why I think it's still the most profitable because there's late swap and there's this late entry. Yeah, I'm getting 97% Chris Middleton, 83% Drew Holiday, 67% Bobby Portis. I think it makes sense that I'm getting just even a little bit slightly less Drew Holiday. There are so many guards, so many. Emmanuel Quickly, where does he kind of fall now? Is there anybody that's taking a huge drop that you thought you would be getting to? Because for me, it's just a lot of the OKC cheapies along with these Bucks now.
I'm not getting to very much DeJounte Murray now. And it's funny because earlier in the day, I was trying to make sure I did get to DeJounte Murray like we were talking about before. I've been too low on him. But now that I'm getting to guys like Middleton and Holiday, it seems like DeJounte Murray's taking the biggest haircut in my exposure.
We got a $5 super chat. If JJJ ownership goes down, is he a huge play all of a sudden or not? I mean, JJJ's ownership is going to go up because you don't have Giannis at the position. So I would assume, especially on our sponsor Yahoo, where Jaron Jackson was already garnering a ton of rostership at $27, expect that to boost up even more now that you don't have Giannis available. Same thing applies on every other site. So anything to add to that? For a $5 super chat, thank you so much, James Hay.
It's not going to go down, so it doesn't matter. It's his ownership. Even if it moves, it's not going to be in a way that's, massively significant down. He's going to be very popular.
How many fantasy points are you projecting Portis for?
I have him at 35 right now.
Okay, I have 39. So I was just wondering if we were in the same ballpark because I just updated it one more time and I'm getting him in 67% of lineups over here on DK. I think that's about the same number as what I had before, but just was getting the exact number kind of locked in there. Wow. This is just the most incredible slate, guys. Fire it all up. Nwora minutes. That's a great question because again, we have so many pieces of value. I don't know if Jordan Nwora is somebody that I'm still going to get to a ton because he's coming off the bench and we have other players, but he's 3,200. I think I can get to a little bit of him. Did you get any whatsoever?
No. We've seen this kind of situation with them before where they've been shorthanded, and Nwora typically does not play very big minutes. So earlier in the season, and I don't even know that he's going to be ahead of Thanasis in the rotation. I think Thanasis could be ahead of him because we've seen that before too, where Nwora has been popular and Thanasis checks in before. The most minutes that he's played all season was 26. And that was opening day blowout run. Almost all these games where he's played over 20 minutes has been blowout situations. So no for me. He was a DNP coach's decision last game.
All right. We've got one more super chat. Then I'm going to talk Yahoo super quick. We're not going to have time for Hall of Fame. I apologize. I hope you all smash tonight. And we have the biggest Hall of Fame ever coming off of it. I know that the Live Before Lock NFL show is currently going. Definitely be checking that out here as well. But Anthony, Dort, Nurkic, or Burks, Podol, and DK Cash. Podol shouldn't even be in the conversation.
Yeah, for Cat, there's so many good points per dollar plays that are also going to be very popular today. Podol is not something I'm considering for Cash.
And Mark Baptiste, better play Middleton, Town, or Crazy Eyes? Middletown is the best play on the slate.
Middleton or Portis. Middleton's my most rostered player now, so Middleton.
Yep,
both of them are really strong plays, though. I'm getting to a ton of both.
Yep, as am I. Oh my gosh, this slate is just so incredible. I can't remember a slate that's quite matched this in terms of value, in terms of how everything else is setting up here. But Yahoo, thank you so much to them for their sponsorship. Obviously, we're playing over there. You guys should be playing over there too. They have the best contests in the industry, especially NFL. They have all these negative management fee contests, Rake, as you might know it. Sign up over there. Use that promo code Awesemo to get use the promo code Awesemo and get that free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum completely free when you're a new user. You deposit $10 or more. It's as simple as that. Check out that offer on the screen. Utilize it immediately. Hit up support at Awesemo.com. Once you sign up over at Yahoo, utilize those features. I'm telling you, best content in the industry and the best site to play on in the industry. It's a great combination. I know you'll enjoy it. Let's just get back to basketball here. I'm getting all my lineups in here. Trey Mann, I'm still getting to a ton. Ty Jerome, still getting to a ton. Jaron Jackson Jr. is getting, he's popping up even more for me. So whoever was wondering about that, I now have more of him as a result of Giannis being out, because that's just a power forward spot on DK that is being occupied by him more often than not now. There's not really a power forward that I'm going to be utilizing outside of Bobby Portis and him, it seems like, on this entire slate. But is there anything crazy that's changed in your lineups across? I guess you're just playing on FanDuel, so that's helpful considering I took everything off of there.
So let's do this. We've got 5 minutes left. If anybody super chats or questions in the Discord, throw those in. We'll answer them. But also, let's go over, because let's get a good summary going, because it gets super confusing now. So let's go position by position. You just say who your two most exposed players are at each position on DK, and I'll do it for FanDuel, just so we could maybe try to make it a little more clear for people as they're finalizing their lineups.
I think that's a great idea. Again, Greg, phenomenal host. I love when he hosts. Love when we're able to work side by side along each other. I have no ego. I do not care who hosts. I love having him take the reins here on decisions like that. So let's do exactly that. I was just stalling so I could update my lineups. Point guard, Drew Holiday, Ty Jerome, Trey Mann. Go. That's my
for me on FanDuel. It's Drew Holiday and Chris Paul. Then there's a pretty big drop off to other guys I'm getting exposure to at the position.
All right, to the shooting guard position, Chris Middleton by far, Ty Jerome also, Trey Mann also. Then Cameron Payne at 16%. I mean, I'm telling you, Anthony Simons and CJ McCollum fell off a cliff, because now I'm getting to Chris Middleton a ton. I still want the value of Ty Jerome and Trey Mann. So I'm over 50% on both of those guys. Who is popping up for you?
It's Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. And then I have a bunch of guys that are pretty close. Dylan Brooks, CJ McCollum, and Emmanuel quickly. But Middleton and Holiday, once again, those are the two big ones for me at shooting guard.
All right. Let me figure out why that disappeared. Here we go. Small forward, Chris Middleton. Again, he's eligible there. Dylan Brooks is just 23%. So that's just telling me that at the small forward position, it's all Chris Middleton. Lugens Dort, 16.3%. Pat Connaughton, 7% is the number. Cameron Johnson, 7%. Alec Burks, 4.7%. Go ahead. How about you fire it up?
Yeah, a lot of guys have already mentioned here. So Chris Middleton, he is small forward eligibility. That's by far my most rostered small forward. Then it's guys, like Dylan Brooks, Darius Baisley is small forward eligibility on FanDuel. But it's so heavily weighted towards Chris Middleton. There really isn't another guy that I have a massive amount of exposure to over there.
Okay, I'm finishing up my Yahoo stuff here as well. Power forward, we've got Bobby Portis, 88% Bobby Portis. Hello. Jaron Jackson Jr., 44%. So I'm getting to a little bit more than the field there. Darius Baisley feels uncomfortable, but 32% there. Jeremiah Robinson Earl, 25%. Julius Randle, 16.3. I'm going to see if I can boost a little bit more Julius Randle, because that's just another ceiling play that I want to get to a little bit more of on a stars and scrubs slate. Who's standing out for you?
Yeah, so looking at the guys at power forward, Bobby Portis, you mentioned him, Jaron Jackson Jr., I'm around even with the field on him to a little bit under right now. He's just going to be so popular. the most recent run, let's see. Jaron Jackson Jr. now 29% over on D count. FanDuel, he's 40%. So, it's a number. Once again, he's my second most rostered power forward over on FanDuel. I'm still not that much different than I'm still having troubles to get over the field on him just because he's so popular. But then some lesser owned power forwards now that I'm getting to a lot, Pascal Siakam being one. I think that this is something that people don't adjust for enough, which is when you see somebody like Giannis out, it also is a pretty big hit to the Bucks defense. So I think this is a much better spot for guys like Siakam and Fred VanVleet. So Siakam, we're looking at somebody who is a little bit less popular. He's something I'm getting to a lot of on FanDuel.
Okay. I think that that's more than fair. All right. I got everything updated. Whew, that felt good. 2 minutes to go. Everybody fire it up again. That was 3 sites turned into 2. That makes it a little bit easier for me, but glad I did that. Bobby Portis still at center, 88.4%. That number didn't change. Jaron Jackson Jr. still there as well. I'm just not getting to much Nurkic and Ayton. They're both 14%. Guys that I thought I'd be playing a lot on this slate, I'm no longer playing here. Even Steven Adams was somebody that we were going to talk about at this position. 4,300 just becomes meaningless. 7% for me. Greg, fire it up for center, round it out.
Yeah, so centers, guys that we haven't talked about yet, Portis, Jaron Jackson Jr., Nurkic, he's going to be really popular though. DeAndre Ayton, we talked about him a little bit earlier, where also there's more usage. You go to him with Devin Booker out, and looking at the most recent run of ownership now, DeAndre Ayton is projected for 18% ownership on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's projected for 19% ownership. I like being overweight to those numbers.
That was incredible. Everybody, by the time you hear this, we will officially be at lock of one of the wilder NBA slates, not just of this year, but in my history of Awesemo, my year here. I don't know if I can remember an NBA slate that had this much going on, so many moving parts. Thank you for coming and having so much fun with us today. It was an absolute blast. It was fun entertainment. It was extremely informative. I hope we were able to help you make lineups. Hopefully you got to as many bucks here as possible, everybody. But so many nice comments there in the chat, so many great super chats, so many amazing commentary. The back and forth could not have possibly been better on the show. All right, we're going to get ourselves out of here because it is time for you guys to head over to the NFL Live Before Lock show for a game that NFL doesn't have nearly as many moving parts as what we just had. But let's get out of here. Greg, any final words for the people?
Let's go Raptors today.
Let's go Raptors. I was going to say you threw them alongside of it. I think that's a great sharp move. I didn't get to as many as I would have liked, but hey, best of luck, everybody. Looking forward to seeing you guys at the top of the leaderboards. He's Greg Ehrenberg. He's got great hair. I'm Eric Lindquist. It's all right. We'll see you guys later.